7 against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eastern Division champions. This is the point where I usually say good afternoon, but I want to change that to cold afternoon. It's 28 degrees with the wind chill factor. It's 10 degrees in Philadelphia. Pat Summerall here with Tom Brookshire. You're close to the Eagles. You know them very well. What do you think?
I think they're very worried. They would like to throw away the 42-7 score and get on with this game. In the last half of the year, Kramer has proven that he's a lot like Roger Staubach. He's very good when he is pressured, when he runs outside. They're a good screen team, and the Eagle linebackers will be pressured.
A lot of people say that the Vikings perhaps do not belong in this game, but as you look at the second half of the season, only Atlanta had a better record than they did. They were coming on strong at the end, but Grant says we're a better team than we were, obviously. We'll just have to wait and see how much better we are.
Wilbert Montgomery is about, he says 145 carries short of last year. He only has 700 yards. He's had 4 different injuries. I think the Eagles would like to run the ball about 40 times. They will try outside, and they not inside. Between the tackles, it's tough against Studwell in this group.
And now, let's go to the national anthem, to the field. For Veterans Stadium is wild.
It's rocking.
Tommy, Philadelphia has become this year somewhat a city of champions.
Well, a lot of pressure on Billy Cunningham. My buddy says if you can lose 2 or 3 basketball games in a row, you're liable to get fired. After the World Series win by the Phillies, the pressure's on. But, Pat, we should mention one thing. The cornerbacks play very soft for the Minnesota Vikings. If they can get outside with runs, Jaworski should be able to throw. The big problem is going to be who is more physical and who has the turnovers. This team, Minnesota, has lost only 3 fumbles on offense all year. That's incredible.
The 2 running backs have handled the ball for Minnesota 475 times and only lost 2 fumbles. Remarkable.
And the last part of the year, they've gotten their rushing average over 4 yards a shot. If they can rush the football a little bit, then play action passes for Kramer will be good. If not, it will be a long time because the Eagles can put the pressure on.
The referee today is Jim Chunny. Let's go down to him for the coin toss.
Captain Blair will call a toss in the air, please. Tails. It is tails. Minnesota's won the toss and elected to receive. Minnesota has won the toss and will receive. Defend the West goal. Good luck.
The referee, as I said, was Jim Tunney. Minnesota captains Tommy Kramer, Matt Blair, and Ron Yeary. The Philadelphia captains Jaworski, Carmichael, Carl Haston, and Louis Jamona.
And keep in mind that Ron Yeary, the big offensive right tackle, did not play in the first game. He's had broken bones in both wheels, but he is pretty healthy, and that might cut down the Humphrey pass rush sometime during this game.
That was the officiating crew. As we mentioned before, the temperature is 28 degrees, a kind of a day that Bud Grant likes.
About 11 division championships in 14 years. He's a rather steady fellow.
Next to George Halas in professional coaching victories is Bud Grant, including the games that he won in Canada before he became the Minnesota head coach.
And 3 NFC championships. He was in the Super Bowl 4 times, didn't win any of them, but you got to be a pretty good coach to get him there, don't you?
Eddie Payton is the older brother of the great Walter Payton, and he is back deep for Minnesota. And barefooted Tony Franklin will kick off for the Eagles. He supposedly, they say, in the warm days of Tampa, where the Eagles worked out his problems, and he was kicking very well before the game. And so Tony Franklin will get this NFC playoff game underway. Short kick. Payton's going to have to hurry to get there. He fields it at the 13. Minnesota wedge goes right. The Philadelphia Eagles are there at the 30. Ron Baker was the first Eagle to make the hit. The offense.
Big Riley at left tackle. He'll have some trouble with Carl Harrison. Boyd is the rookie in there. Swilly, who has taken most of the snaps at center. Hamilton, big area tackle. Bob Tucker, but look for Sensor to come in right away. A very fine receiver.
The wide receivers are fine, too, for Minnesota. Ahmad Rashad and Sammy White. Young Tommy Kramer, the quarterback. Young and Brown, the runners.
And Teddy Brown is a great athlete, a #1 draft choice a couple of years ago.
He is deep in the eye. Number 23 is Brown. 34 is Ricky Young. In motion is Bob Tucker. This is Brown. The Eagles are out in a hurry. Brown is around the corner for about 5. Bernard Wilson made the tackle. We'll look at that Eagle defense in just a second.
Ricky Young got a good block on the outside linebacker. And remember, if they could establish a rushing game against this 34 defense, they can throw. Harrison, Johnson, and of course, Carl Harrison's at right defensive end.
The linebacking crew is about as good as there is. Bunting, Berge, LeMaster, and Jerry Robinson.
And the outside backer's got to be careful. He'll throw a lot of screens and slip screens.
The Philadelphia secondary, Young, Edwards, Logan, and Bernard Wilson. Joe Sensor is the tight end in motion now. Kramer's going to throw, and does. Intended for Sensor, knocked away by Frank LeMaster.
Kramer has thrown the ball 61 times. That was a year ago. He threw it 53 times this year. He averages almost 40 throws a game. But they have gotten their rushing game stabilized with the people back on the offensive line. And boy, he can move. He's a great athlete at 6'2", about 204 pounds.
So it'll be 3rd and 5 in these opening minutes at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. 14:41 left to play in the first quarter. Line of scrimmage is the Vikings 35.
And you got the 4-man rush now by the Eagles.
Flynn, Ken Clark, and Humphrey in the game. Kramer under pressure from Humphrey. Throws complete. Running back Teddy Brown. It'll be a Minnesota Viking first down at midfield. Reggie Wilkes made the tackle.
A great throw as Bigfoot Harrison makes a stunt down the middle out of this 40 defense. Watch 68. And almost gets there. Kramer hangs in. They've got him by one ankle, and still he throws a strike to the back coming out of the backfield.
Here's Brown, isolated.
Little delay. Now he just looks to get away. He does from Reggie Wilkes. Boy, that's a good throw.
Right at midfield. There's Ted Brown, the running back. 1st and 10, Minnesota. First offensive series of the game, and Minnesota on the move. Kramer again. Pass complete to Bob Tucker. Laterals. Penalty marker goes down. The Eagles have the football. Carl Harrison.
They may have called defensive holding under that catch as Tucker was fighting for the ball.
They may have also called an illegal handoff from Tucker. Holding Philadelphia. You're right.
The ball looked like it was bobbled by Tucker, and then he did get control and lateraled and fumbled. But that flag came from the man deep down to the right part of your screen.
Discussion continues with the referee, Jim Tunney.
A short passing game can drive you crazy. Remember, this defense that Kramer's working against allows an average of 13 points a game, a big rush, a lot of pressure there by Robinson. We didn't get to see that exchange.
We'll see it as soon as they complete their judgment of what the penalty might be.
Ball was pass interference defense while the ball was in the air, holding against defense. Pass interference, first down.
All right, what's the right part of your screen? LeMaster fades out of that 34. First down play. That's Jerry Robinson, who was making some contact, and Berge too. It was Bill Berge, I believe, that made the first contact with Tucker.
The attempted lateral from Tucker was to Ricky Young.
It doesn't cost much yardage, but it's a first down. They move the sticks again.
They move it to the 45-yard line of Philadelphia. 1st and 10, Minnesota. Young and Brown still the running backs. Tommy Kramer in that first game was not too good. Here's Brown again for about 5-4. Dennis Harrison made the tackle. Ball with some help from his friend.
It's a good first down play. Picked up over 5.
It's like Brown might be nursing a hurt.
They had knee surgery a year ago after the season was over and was healthy this year until now.
This is the one thing that Bud Grant said over and over yesterday, was that the Minnesota Vikings couldn't afford.
Because they're thin, they're not the deepest, he says. Good-looking block by the offensive right guard. That's big Wes Hamilton in there.
Looks like his left knee buckled under him when he was hit from the side. So Brown is still down. 13:27 left in the first quarter with no score between the Vikings and the Eagles in the divisional playoff of the NFC. Brown is out. Doug Pascal, number 40, has taken his place.
Big kid, 219-pound rookie from North Carolina, and he carried the ball only 15 times during the year. I tell you, the short passing game will drive you crazy.
That's Brown over on the Minnesota bench. They're looking at his left leg. Tommy Kramer on 2nd and 5 will operate behind his offensive center, Swilly, who they say is playing as well as anybody in the NFC. The pass to Tucker, drop, incomplete. Frank LeMaster picks it up for Philadelphia, but it's called incomplete.
Bill Berge got back out of that 34. He makes the move, sees the run. Now he goes with Tucker, who almost made a great spinning catch. It was considered not a catch.
And the crowd, obviously you can hear, is booing that decision by the officiating crew.
Like Kramer is worrying about his right hand. He had it hurt during the season, and young Dills had to take over the Washington game and let him rest it.
He told me that his thumb, which was hurt earlier, is okay now, but the finger on his right hand is still sore and tender, and he's got it taped.
Now the 40 defense is in now for the pass rush.
3 wide receivers for Minnesota, but the pass is to tight end Joe Sincer. Herman Edwards on the tackle, but Kramer continues to pick apart the Eagles secondary.
And a good quick release from the shotgun. That Sincer just went in motion. He's a young man from nearby here in Westchester State, 6'4", about 240 pounds. Doesn't block much, but he can really catch it. Here he comes now on the isolate. Out of the man in motion, just doesn't drag out. Robinson is very quick, but he didn't cover it that time.
He was on the injured reserve list last year. So this actually is his 2nd year of professional competition. Here's Kramer looking deep. Touchdown, Sammy White. Minnesota breaks on top. A strike. Randy Logan was the Philadelphia defender, but Kramer hung it right there for Sammy White.
Sammy White ran a post. That's his 54th catch of the year. He doesn't have the great speed, but boy, he has soft hands and great concentration. Again, the offensive line, the big rush by Carl Harrison doesn't get the early release. A great catch, and Logan was too late.
And a good-looking drive. Rick Danmeyer with Steve Dills holding. Danmeyer's number 7. Conventional straightaway kicker. That looks funny now, doesn't it?
He's missed 7 extra points this year.
Didn't miss that one. 7-0 Minnesota. Shocked crowd here in Philadelphia.
And remember, when you're the underdog and suddenly you get confidence, like a great touchdown in the first drive, you can begin to build something hot.
Minnesota 7, Philadelphia nothing. First quarter. Minnesota went 70 yards in 7 plays, and they break on top 7-0. Rick Danmeyer, the kickoff. It's to the right. Billy Canfield's back deep for Philadelphia, takes it at the 15. Minnesota's Canfield. Minnesota's Fred McNeil stops Canfield, I should say.
And that's the best kickoff coverage team in the NFL. Good field position for the Eagles, but this team has to warm up all over again. Walters, Perot, Guy Morris, Woody Peoples, and Jerry Sizemore with Keith Prepley, a very good blocking tight end.
Ron Jaworski, of course, is the quarterback. Wilbert Montgomery and Leroy Harris, the runners. Harold Carmichael is one wide receiver, and Scott Fitzke in place of Charles Smith. Fitzke is number 81. He and Carmichael both split left. Jaworski starts Fitzke in motion. Montgomery on first down gets a couple. Wrapped up by James Duck White.
Here's the defense inside on the down forward. They are tough. This is the Eagles defense. We'll look at that Minnesota defense here in a second. They've got Duck White at left, Sutherland at right tackle. They've got young Martin at right defensive end. And they got Mulaney, the big kid from Colorado State, who's had a virus at left defensive end. You can run outside, but not inside very well.
We'll get the rest of them in just a second. 2nd and 8 for Philadelphia. The 38. Jaworski sets up a screen to his tight end, kept Krepfle, and sets it up nicely. About a yard shy of a first down. Kurt Knopf made the tackle for Minnesota. The rest of the defense.
They were already in a nickel that time with an extra back, but Blair, Studwell, and McNeil. Studwell handles the run very well. McNeil and Blair can both really run. Blair's an all-pro.
A rebuilt secondary. Turner, Bryant, Tommy Hannon, and Kurt Knopf.
And both corners play a little bit soft. At least that's what people have thought through the year. There's the Swamp Fox working with the defense.
It will be 3rd and 1 for the Eagles as Ron Jaworski gets him out. Montgomery. And he struggles for just enough, carrying James White for the first down.
Matt Blair really filled the hole very quickly. He's the 230-pound linebacker to the left, you'll see. They pulled Woody Peoples. Boy, Studwell came in fast. Studwell's out of Illinois, and he broke Butkus's tackling record, so you know he likes to make contact.
Philadelphia first down as they bring the chains out to make sure.
The big thing about Jaworski's stats are that he only has 12 interceptions this year.
The best year he's ever had. Second best year ever for an Eagle quarterback. Second behind Sonny Jurgensen. First down at the 46 for Philadelphia. Montgomery again for a couple. Doug Sutherland, first man to hit him.
The Thrasher. Remember the purple people? He's the last guy in there. Eller's gone, a couple of years at least. Alan Page left in 78. Jim Marshall finally retired, and the Thrasher's still in there, and they played that one very well.
Tony Franklin on the hot seat.
All kickers are on the hot seat, aren't they?
At one time or another.
Tough call on second long.
For first. 9.5 minutes left first quarter. They get it out to Montgomery, who breaks away from one tackler, breaks away from another. Montgomery, on strength alone, finally knocked down by Matt Blair.
That time Minnesota came with a safety blitz. It was picked up very well. Watch Jaworski read the blitz. Studwell comes. Now the safety man is coming to the left. He dumps it off. Here's where Wilbert Montgomery is great. Breaks one tackle, breaks two tackles, and now you better get him out of bounds.
He got away from both Minnesota safety men. There's Wilbert Montgomery.
He caught 50 passes this year, but he's had a knee, a groin pull, a hip pointer, and a concussion against the Dallas Cowboys. He wants to show off today.
So far, he's doing it. First down, Philadelphia at the Minnesota 42. Lipsky comes in motion. It'll be Montgomery again. Can't get around the corner. Breaks one tackle again, but James White, number 72, makes sure with help from Tommy Hannon.
Johnny Turner, the left cornerback, got up there in a hurry. They're not playing soft today. Turner came up and sort of strung the play out. Blair's still one of the good linebackers. When you get him in position, he is more than a load. He's still very quick.
6'5½", about 230. Billy Campfield comes in. Krepfle comes out. Leroy Harris comes out. Rodney Parker goes in. So they'll operate with three wide receivers. Parker's 83. Wide to the left with Carmichael. Fitzke to the other side. Minnesota putting on the heat again. The throw is intended for Fitzke. Minnesota on tough defense with John Turner over there first, number 27.
Johnny Turner not playing like the soft quarterback that the scouting reports had. Fitzke goes up, and Turner makes a superb defensive play. The ball had already made contact with Fitzke's hands. And
Fitzke is still down. The Eagles don't have much depth at that position, with Charles Smith already out with a broken jaw. Now Fitzke down.
A lot of good pressure put on Jaworski that time with just a four-man rush.
41 with 8:29 left first quarter. Vikings 7, Eagles nothing.
There's a great defensive play by the cornerback.
Scott Fitzke stayed down, but has now gotten up and run off to the sideline with no assistance, so that's encouraging. It'll be 3rd and 9 for the Eagles.
The Minnesota nickel defense is in there. They go with a 3-man rush and they blitz. They'll send somebody.
Pass is complete to Carmichael. Diving catch. John Turner on the defense. What a fine catch by Harold Carmichael.
This time, Jimmy Carr's defense blitzed from the left side with a safety man. Wilbert Montgomery picked him up. And they're saying that Carmichael hasn't made a big catch in 5 games, but that was a large one. Remember, he's 6'8", but he lays out like a little man for this one. Wow, what a pair of hands.
Harold Carmichael, who had his consecutive game streak broken against Dallas 2 weeks ago. 48 catches on the year for 815 yards. Flank to the left this time. Here's Fitzke in motion. Out to Fitzke. Blockers in front and a bunch of them. Scott Studwell closes on the football and takes him down.
Jerry Sizemore, the former All-American from Texas, pulled out in the right tackle spot and just buried the cornerback. This is a slip screen to number 81, the man that just went in motion. Sizemore just buried him. Peoples is out in front. Tommy Hannon finally made that stop.
Second down and 4 at the 23-yard line of Minnesota. The Vikings leading the Eagles 7-0. Wilbert Montgomery will have an Eagle first down. Scott Studwell again made the tackle, but good yardage for Montgomery. All the way down to the 16-yard line.
This is a place few people have been able to run, trapping up the middle. Because Sutherland, Studwell, and White usually close it off. This time White ran around the block of Woody Peoples and opened the hole up. And he's hungry. He's had a tough year. He's been in the infirmary about 70% of the time.
Every running play in this drive that the Eagles have run has been Montgomery. That's still true. As Montgomery barrels over the right side for about 5. Fred McNeil, number 54 for Minnesota, on the bottom of the pile. But again, Montgomery gets good yardage.
The only remaining back, and it's straight out of the right side. They had a wing back that time, 2 tight ends with a wing back. Spagnola and Krepley in together. They ran right to the strong side of the formation.
6 yards for Montgomery. His 6th carry. It'll be 2nd and 4 at the 10, just outside the 10.
18 yards for Montgomery on 6 carries.
Running at 5:25 left first quarter. Montgomery gets another cut and barrels near an Eagle first down. Tommy Hannon, the safety man, had to make the tackle.
5 of the people that beat the Vikings this year rushed for 180 yards or more. Plus, while you're rushing the football, Tommy Kramer's offense doesn't have a chance to operate. Just a strong side cutback.
Montgomery up slowly. Number 31, as Tom Brookshire has been saying, has had a tough year. Knees injured. Groin pulls. A lot of things have been wrong. Just a lot of bumps. First down.
Montgomery's biggest day, of course, came in that 42-7 job up in Minnesota. He broke one for 72 that day. Things get tough toward the end of the year. Here's Wilbert coming off.
And Louis Giamona has taken his place. Bud Grant. Give you an idea how cold it is. He's even got his hands in his pockets.
That's not in his coaching book at all, is it?
Not at all.
2 tight ends in there, Krepley and Spagnola.
Spagnola over on the left side. That's Carmichael behind him. Leroy Harris and Louis Gimona. That's Gimona, who does not quite get back to the line of scrimmage. Safety man Kurt Knopf comes up and knocks him down.
Knopf had 78 solo tackles, and he and Hannon can play safety with anybody. They pull Perot, the left guard, try to send the back in there. Some play by the safety man. Gimona didn't make an inch. Talk about the sudden stop at the end of a fast, quick move. That is some play.
Boy, that's technique. Montgomery is back in now. I beg your pardon. Gimona comes out, and they'll go with one lone setback. Leroy Harris. So Jaworski is saying, we're going to throw it to somebody. And here he drops. Throwing high in the end zone for Spagnola. He can't hang on. Had it for just a moment and lost it. Willie Teal was the defender back there with him.
The former Yale player, that time went up. He's made some tremendous catches for the Eagles, at least in the films I've seen. Jaworski takes a little off this pass, and it is right on the numbers. You can't throw it any better than that one. And Spagnola knows it.
So it'll be 3rd down and 6. Leroy Harris comes out. Gimona's in. Gimona swings wide to the right, and he is hit again right at the line of scrimmage. And we'll see Tony Franklin. Scott Studwell is out there quickly.
They run to the weak side of the formation. Everybody was anticipating pass except the Minnesota Vikings. Good defense again. Sizemore can't make the block. I believe it was Blair out there that made first contact, and then Studwell.
And Studwell, number 55, makes solid contact. Watch the end of this.
Studwell just keeps coming from the middle and fills it. Good play by Blair, too.
So Tony Franklin with Jaworski holding from 24 yards out.
He's 13 of 20 out to the 39.
Blocked, as the Vikings so often do. And Minnesota will take over. The Eagles kept the ball a long time and got nothing for it.
They do this for a living. You'll see the block. Let's see the kick. It won't make any difference because Sensor and Blair stand behind that defensive line, and they get penetration and both make the jump.
They do that perhaps better than anybody. Sensor and Blair both were up high and over, and they knock it down. Nord make the recovery for Minnesota. If he didn't get it, Sensor would have got it. Let's look at who blocked that field goal again.
They call the linemen grubbers. They drive ahead, and then Sensor and Blair, who blocked it, jump up as high as they can over the top.
It was Blair that got the hand on it. In the last 4 years, they have blocked 47 kicks, including that one. Blair himself has gotten 16. Sammy White didn't quite get turned around soon enough, but the ball was right on the numbers.
And Ronell Young was backed off a little. The rookie #1 draft played awfully loose on Sammy White. Kramer's asking him, are you looking at me or looking at Young? That was some defensive swing. No field goal, no touchdown, and they get the ball back, and Kramer goes back to work, and they're getting more confident. Doug
Pascal is the deep man in the I formation for Minnesota if they line up in the I. Now they go with the 3 wide receivers. Pascal is the deep back, the lone back. Brown is out with a bruised left knee. Here's Kramer, rolling left, throwing left. Intended for Terry LeCount, who couldn't hang on. But he again was open.
He was hit pretty hard. The one thing about Herm Edwards, he might let you have a few short sidelines, but he doesn't want to get pulled over and have somebody go up the sidelines for a score.
Matt Blair over on the Minnesota sideline.
2 good throws, 0-2, and the quarterback had little to do with either incompletion.
LeCount comes in with the play. Sensor comes in. Tucker goes out.
Sensor's really a good pass receiver, number 81.
Eagle rush team is in. Kramer Fire comes away. Humphrey has him, and Humphrey slings him down. Claude Humphrey.
That's his 16th sack of the year, and he only comes in usually on passing situations. The left part of your screen. Number 87 working against Ron Yeri, about 268-pounder. Gets his back turned and gets a hold of the quarterback. That's the 4th time. He had 3 sacks in the first game against Minnesota.
Minnesota kicker is Greg Coleman. Back deep for Philadelphia, Gemona, Dick Vermeil's nephew. Coleman standing just about 2 yards in front of the end zone line. Number 8's going to have some pressure on him here. Almost used up all the time. Coleman gets it out of there. Gemona fields it and springs down inside the 35 to the 31, but a penalty marker goes down.
LeCount thinks he got clipped by number 83. That would be Rodney Parker. And you know, Zach Henderson almost blocked that punt. Here's Gemona's return. He doesn't weigh over 176 pounds, including his broken nose. Makes one person miss.
Penalty marker was down, and they move it back against Philadelphia.
Personal foul, slipping on the return, number 83, first down.
There's the clip right in the middle of the screen. He tried not to make contact with LeCount, but all you got to do is touch the numbers on the back.
I'm not sure he did that.
I'm sure he would agree.
First down, Philadelphia at their own 44. Montgomery back in the game. Leroy Harris in front of him. Minnesota 7. Eagles nothing. First quarter coming to an end. Jaworski fakes to Montgomery. Looks down the middle, intended for Crepway. Came right straight over the top of his head, and he couldn't pick it up.
Kurt Knopf, the safety man, came all the way over from the right part. Watch the play pass action. Montgomery will step up and pick up and help on Sutherland. The ball is thrown hanging. Prepley gets both hands pretty much on it, and Knopf just runs through it to make sure.
Came right straight over the top of his head. That's a difficult catch to make.
Jaworski is actually the best when he's throwing the ball on a line on sort of a steady motion. When he tries to take things off, he loses a little bit of control.
Scott Fitzke splits out wide to the left. Carmichael way on the left-hand side of your field. Jaworski drops again and throws down the middle. This time Crepway finds the handle, and that one was thrown absolutely perfect. Fred McNeil, the tackler.
Great pass to come back and call the shorter route and then hit number 84. By way of the World Football League, Prepley out of Iowa State is one of the real hard-charging guys. Every play is his last play. That was maybe deflected by Sutherland and still got there on a spiral.
Just got over the outstretched hands of Fred McNeil and into Prepley's hands.
Jaworski's now 5 of 8 for 59 yards.
7-0 Minnesota. Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire. Fitzke swings in motion to the right. Jaworski to Montgomery. Going weak and tripped up by Fred McNeil.
This is the play that the Eagles worked very successfully in their first game. They thought they could get Wilburn outside to the left, outside of the defensive end. In this case, it's Big Martin, and cut McNeil down. They cut McNeil down, but he still made the tackle.
Montgomery comes out again, and looks like he might be shaken again. Gemona's taking his place. It'll be 2nd and 11 for the Eagles at the Minnesota 37.
Jaworski's tutor is Sid Gilman, the master of pass offense. Let's see what he set down for this play.
Minnesota blitz. Nobody around as Jaworski just unloaded. Carmichael and Krepfle hadn't completed their pattern, but Jaworski wisely got rid of it.
And Kurt Knopf, the safety man, watch him go and come from the outside, all the way from the outside. Blair's coming too. In fact, Blair knocked Peoples right out of the hole. Jaworski decided either to throw it where nobody was, which is a good idea, or maybe Carmichael was supposed to be breaking to the sidelines. I'm not sure.
Jaworski didn't have much time to make any decision. It'll be 3rd and 11. Fitzke out to the right. Rodney Parker and Carmichael. Two flankers. Gemona and Campfield in the backfield, both good receivers. And both come out. Jaworski down the right side, almost intercepted by John Turner. A rebuilt Minnesota team that really is on the upswing.
And a bad read by number 7. There were 3 Vikings in better position really than Harold Carmichael. They had under coverage, the cornerman and the linebacker had backed right into Harold's lap.
Here's Minnesota quarterback Tommy Kramer getting ready to come back. Max Runiger, number 4, is the Eagle kicker, and Eddie Payton will go back deep for Minnesota. Vikings late getting out on the field for some reason.
Runiger has kicked 17 out inside the 20.
Eddie Payton is number 31, motioning, now counting to see that the Vikings have got enough people out there, and he was right. They didn't, but now they do. Runiger taking his time, hangs it over to the right sideline. And it goes out of bounds at about the 11, where Minnesota will take over. 5 seconds left to play in quarter number 1 at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And Minnesota, surprisingly, at least to a lot of people, leads Philadelphia 7-0. 1st and 10 at the 11 for Minnesota. Ted Brown is back in the Minnesota backfield. And he catches the pass, and down he goes in the grasp of Frank LeMaster. Brown had a bruised knee, and he didn't look like he was operating at full efficiency.
And I mean, Jerry Robinson made sure that Kramer unloaded very quickly. Watch number 56. Hello.
Into 1. At Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Minnesota 7, Philadelphia nothing. Although Philadelphia had the ball 11 minutes 10 seconds, Minnesota had it 3 minutes 50 seconds.
They don't give you a ticket to the next game on time held unless you get points.
That's not in the tie-breaking category, is it?
Not yet.
Second down for Minnesota. They need 11. They're backed up to their own 10-yard line as Kramer throws under heavy pressure, but has his running back Ricky Young open for about 6 yards. Randy Logan up to make the tackle, but they were after Tommy Kramer.
Kramer uses everybody. Of course, the Bud Grant offense, and Burns, of course, is the guy that puts it together. They use both backs, 3 receivers at least, and Kramer picked out the right one. Ricky Young, by the way, was the backfield mate of Walter Payton down at Jackson. They must have won every game.
I don't know why they didn't if they didn't. It'll be 3rd and 2 at the 18. Tommy Kramer, one of 11 children. Kramer, Young again. Shy of a first down, I think.
Or an incomplete pass. Roynell Young, the young cornerback, was there. That 34 defense gives you great pursuit areas. Watch 66 and I'll start going with it right away. And they play this pass just like it's a run. There's Robinson in there too. Young made the first contact.
And Greg Coleman, number 8. The Minnesota punter is in, standing at his own 5-yard line. Louis Gemona is deep for the Eagles. They have 9 men up on the line. They're trying to show him rush. Coleman gets off a shank. Bounces over the head of everybody and rolls. A Minnesota roll, if you'll ever see one. That ball couldn't have traveled more than 30 yards in the air. Winds up being a 47-yard kick.
He's a crafty little punter, though. Every year they bring in somebody, a high draft choice, to try to beat him out, and he keeps drilling it down in the coffin.
So the Eagles will take over after Coleman's 47-yard punt. They'll have it 1st and 10 at their own 34 with 13:58 left in the first half. Minnesota 7, Eagles nothing. 1st and 10, Philadelphia at their own 34, trailing Minnesota 7-0. Montgomery is back in the lineup. And it's Wilbert. A yard perhaps.
That is a play that Wilbert broke for 72 yards. You put the tight end tight at the left side, run away to the weak side. That time looked like McNeil came up early, and then Doug Martin made the tackle. He's the young man in the Sun Bowl we saw that was the MVP last year for Washington, and a #1 draft choice.
So it'll be 2nd and 9. Somebody asked Bud Grant yesterday why Doug Martin was going to start, expecting a sophisticated answer, but he said very simply, because I've got the hat and the whistle. 2nd down and 9 at the 35. Kramer with a lot of time finds his running back Leroy Harris. Harris breaks away from a few. Still on his feet is Leroy Harris, running as hard as we've seen in a long time. He's got an Eagle first down. He's knocked back by Kurt Knopf. But a fine display of bull running by Leroy Harris.
Leroy Harris has made 2 big catches for the Eagles this year. One against Oakland in that last touchdown drive. One against Washington for almost a touchdown. Watch this run. He slimmed down from his Miami days. He's about 215 now. He's still only 5'10". Now he runs into some heavy traffic. A lot of trouble.
That first hit for Minnesota was made by Doug Martin. We were just talking about him a minute ago, and that's who's down now, number 79, the big defensive end.
Holloway will come in probably. They've got 3 #1s on that defensive line. That's a good-looking young line.
7-0, Minnesota over Philadelphia in the 2nd quarter. At Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire. Eagles going again with a double tight end offense. As you look at their bench, head coach Dick Vermeil. Those benches are warm on the Philadelphia side, but they're not on the Minnesota side.
The only back left is Leroy Harris, the fullback.
And he gets the carry. He gets about 5. Mark Mullaney closed in on him and took him down, but good yardage for Leroy Harris.
Good first down call. This is the tough place to run between those tackles with Studwell in there. Let's see what happens. It's all straight ahead. Woody Peoples just took Duck White beyond the play a little bit, and Mullaney had to make the stop from the outside.
So it'll be 2nd and 5 at the 49. Harris, who doesn't carry the ball much, they give it to Montgomery most of the time. Jaworski pumps, looking for Carmichael. Overthrown by about 10 yards. Bobby Bryant back there with Carmichael.
Now you have strange winds that come into this Veterans Stadium. They come in circle, and you never know where they are. That time, though, I think Ron, who is really pumped up, just airmailed it. He's been a little bit tight. He usually gets a little bit better as the game goes on about his relaxation and release. But don't be fooled by that, because it comes down, and sometimes there's no breeze at all down on the playing field.
They were talking about winds being as high as 30 miles an hour today, and nowhere near that velocity. And in fact, before the game down on the field, it didn't seem very windy at all. Parker, flank to the right. Somebody in the Philadelphia line moved too quickly.
Minnesota came with a 3-man front, and they began to agitate on the line of scrimmage. I believe it was Blair faking the blitz.
False start, number 62 offense, still 3rd down.
Hero, the left guard.
Only in his 2nd year.
Speaking of people who've trimmed down, he's lost about 35 pounds.
Yeah, and he's got an aggressive nature. When Duck White made a false move, which you can do on defense, he jumped.
So it'll be 3rd and 10 back at the 46-yard line of Philadelphia now. 3-man rush for Minnesota. Maybe. Jaworski Jaworski going deep again. Intended again. This time for Fitzke. And again, a little long. Bobby Bryant back there with Fitzke.
Ron Jaworski is now 6 of 13. And very well covered that time. Fitzke's a young Penn Stater who's coming off a broken leg earlier in the year. And I don't think he's full speed yet.
Eddie Payton back deep for Minnesota. Eagles throw out formation to John Shira, and they come up with a clutch first down.
Max Runiger's first pass of the year. And while it didn't look like Van Brocklin or Bobby Lane or Kramer or Jaworski, I'll be darned if it didn't get there.
Shira wide open. Penalty marker down. Could be face mask.
And Shira has a broken hand that he broke against Dallas. Boy, there's a good official. Tunney's getting the officials away, the line judge away, so he can talk in peace.
Imagine he had a lot of people yelling at him over by the Minnesota bench. I mean, the Eagle bench.
And Blair's yelling at him, too.
Where did Shira come from?
He came from UCLA, then went to Canada. The Bears had the draft rights. And actually, the Eagles got him by way of Tampa Bay. It looks like the Vikings got the call.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're not saying this is a hideout. Remember the old-time hideout play? Which, of course, is illegal.
Dick Vermeil was just fined $2,000 after the Dallas game. And he has really given Jim Tunney a piece of his mind.
I'll bet you that's what this is. They're saying that he was lining up over where the Minnesota players couldn't see him, blending in with the rest of the Eagle players.
We used to hide people in long grass, but I haven't seen the sleeper play in a long time.
And the argument continues. And Tunney will tell us.
After the delay, we have 2 fouls. Personal foul on 45 at the end of the run. We have unsportsmanlike conduct. Number 21 came off the bench, was within 5 yards of the sideline. Offsetting foul. We will replay.
That's exactly what happened.
Came off of the bench and lined up, but you can't be within 5 yards of the sidelines. The only way you could do a sleeper play otherwise would be to unzip the rug and get under it.
Here's Runiger. Look at nobody out with Shira.
And actually it was Tommy Hannon, the safety man, that got face mask and half of Shira.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct, number 21, offset, 4th down.
Jim Tunney, the head man there, just got married the 27th of December. What a way to spend your honeymoon.
He's not the most popular man at Veterans Stadium at the moment, or with Dick Vermeil.
He fights for his players. Bud Grant does the same thing. That's why they've come this far.
After all this and that delay, it's 4th and 10 at the 46 for Philadelphia. And again, it's Eddie Payton back deep for Minnesota.
Vermeil is still down the sidelines talking to the official that has to be in front of the Eagles bench.
We're going to have to get Vermeil more cable, I think. Max Runiger. Number 4 in the green will kick for Philadelphia. Eagles taking a lot of time. 4 seconds left on that 30-second clock, and now they get it underway. Runiger with a line drive, good kick that hangs up there a long time. Eddie Payton. Payton with some room out to the 30, where Minnesota will take over. 41-yard punt by Runiger.
don't see any new plays, do you? Minnesota has a Statue of Liberty in their repertoire this year. We used to see that with Red Grange.
We might see it again today. They'll take over 1st and 10 at their own 31. In the middle of that mass of humanity is head coach Dick Vermeil of the Eagles, who is still upset over things. On the Minnesota bench. Here goes Sammy White out of the backfield in motion as Kramer is going to put it up again. And does. Has a man open, Ricky Young. Ricky Young breaks away almost. Minnesota first down. Bernard Wilson made the tackle, and Kramer is throwing strikes.
From San Diego to Minnesota, and then Ricky Young has caught everything thrown to him. The roll right, the quick setup. Boy, Kramer does get it on its way in a hurry. That's Bernard Wilson making the stop and almost needing help.
So the Vikings move into Eagle territory. Here's Young. And you're right, they use them all, don't they?
Kramer is 7 of 11 now for 86 yards and the touchdown.
1st and 10 Minnesota at the Eagle 46. Kramer's going to throw again. Quick screen, slip to Young. He's got about 5, down close to the 40. Jerry Robinson made the stop with help from Berge.
They're a good screening team to both sides. They'll waggle to one side and screen back. There's Kenny Iman. He's working with that offensive line. Of course, right now, he's plotting for the next series when the Eagles do have the ball.
Terry LeCount comes in. Young goes out. Rashad and White go out to the right. LeCount flank to the left.
And Sensor's in there at tight end.
Kramer gives to Brown, and he's near the Minnesota first down. Charlie Johnson made the tackle, number 65, headed for the Pro Bowl.
The last 7 games of the year, the Vikings got the rushing game going, and it's over 4 yards a carry for that period. And really, you can almost take the first half of the season and say, who cares?
They were 6-2 in the second half of the season under Bud Grant. Philadelphia was 5-3. As we mentioned before, only Atlanta had a better record in the second half of the year than Minnesota. Foot short of a first down.
Not many Vikings sitting on the hot bench over there, or cooled off bench.
In their case, yeah, it's a cold bench.
It's probably colder than walking around.
3rd and about a foot for Minnesota. At the Eagle 36. Brown, who had to leave the game and go to the locker room earlier, has returned and carried the football. 3 tight ends. Minnesota. He might have gotten the first down, but it's going to be close. It was Brown again.
It's awfully close. The Eagles were the 3rd best team against 3rd down conversions. Obviously, they weren't all 3rd and a foot, but that was some defensive charge. Let's see who was under the bottom there. That's Bigfoot Harrison in there, 68. They get him off of there, but it looks like Carl Harrison and company blocked it off pretty well.
Robinson, I think, made the first contact with Brown. And that's 4th and about a foot.
The Vikings want to go for it.
Robert Miller, number 35, comes into the Minnesota running scheme of things. Ricky Young goes out. And again, the Vikings will try it. They lead 7-0. 9-10 left in the first half. That's Miller. And he got the first down, but barely. Carl Harrison submarined the whole thing. But it's a first down, Minnesota.
Short yardage on both sides of the line of scrimmage. A wing back up on the top right of your screen. Good penetration. Looked like Brown actually made the hole that Miller filled for the first.
Brown, the lead blocker. And you're right.
It's going to be close, but it looked like he got it.
First down, Vikings. At the Eagle 35. 9 minutes left in the second quarter. And Minnesota taking the opening kickoff, scoring a touchdown on a pass from Kramer to Sammy White, leads 7-0. Rashad and White,
Yes.
both to the left, starting White in motion.
Rashad hasn't caught a ball yet.
Pass complete. I believe that's Ted Brown that made the catch.
That's Brown's 5th catch. He's got good speed. He once ran the 60-yard dash in 6-1. I can remember when that was the world's record. North Carolina State. He went 62 against Detroit and outran the whole secondary. This time he just turns in, gets hit a pretty hard lick
By Bunting and Berge.
And early in the game, we thought he wasn't going to be able to come back.
Sensor, the tight end, is lined up to the right. White and Rashad both left. Kramer has the first down at the Eagle 23. Pitches back to Ricky Young. Young trying to get around the corner. Nothing doing. Maybe a couple. Robinson, the first man there.
Great play on the outside. Rournell Young supports very well. Again, if you support too quickly from the corner, a fellow like Kramer will slip it right in behind you. Kramer is 9 of 13 now for 104 yards. They say he's the most effective, Pat, sometimes when he's being chased or looks like he's in trouble.
He's been throwing well today. He had 4 brothers who were also quarterbacks, but his father was a college coach.
4 of the 11, huh?
Kramer looking quick to the outside, pump fake, throw to Joe Sensor, the tight end. He's at the 1-foot line for Minnesota. Almost broke it into the end zone. Bud Grant. Kramer pump faked it left and then found that tight end with another strike.
Watch the footwork of Kramer. He's out of Rice. They didn't win many games. Watch the fake left. Turns right back around. The one thing Fred Bruni said that was so dangerous about Kramer was that he looks you away and comes back quickly and spots the other man.
They put it down at the 1. Bernard Wilson made the contact that knocked Sensor down. Joe Sensor, by the way, holds the NCAA record for field goal accuracy in basketball. Broke Bill Walton's record. Young. Just short, I think. About a foot.
The Eagles have only given up 8 touchdowns rushing in the regular season. But it's a new year, isn't it? A new season.
New Minnesota team.
You're behind the Eagle defense. Everybody's in the seam. Good play by Rournell Young.
Minnesota leading 7-0 and trying to get more. Brown has more. Minnesota goes to 13-0 over Philadelphia. Rick Danmeyer will come on and try to make it 14. So with 5.5 minutes left to play in the first half, the Vikings on top, 13-0 now.
And they're playing pretty much errorless type football. The Eagles have had 2 big calls against them, and they've hurt. One was the holding call in that first drive, and of course the fake punt pass.
Steve Dills, Minnesota's backup quarterback, is the holder. Danmeyer will try the extra point. And rips it good. So, a rather surprising series of developments at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia as the Minnesota Vikings, heavy underdogs coming into this game, lead Philadelphia 14-0 with 5:36 left in the first half. Rick Danmeyer set to kick off. Billy Camfield in the middle for Philadelphia. Minnesota leading 14-0. Trying to go off to one side, it looks like, with the kickoff. Camfield comes over to that side and takes it at the 3. Minnesota takes him down at the 15. Keith Nord is the first man down for Minnesota.
Great-looking game plan set up by Bud Grant and the staff. Kramer has used everybody but guards and tackles to catch the ball, and no interceptions yet by the Eagles.
And so Ron Jaworski, number 7, coming off his finest year ever as a pro, will operate from his own 15-yard line with his team down 14-0.
Well, it's really a good time to sit back and not get too flamboyant trying to catch up all at once.
With a little bit of running room this time, James White, the first Minnesota defender to make contact.
And the confidence factor swings toward the underdog. The longer you stay with it. Last year it was the Rams that came into the playoffs 9-7.
And made it to the Super Bowl.
All the way to Pasadena.
All the way to second and 5 here. Jaworski surveying things. Dropping and throwing outside Carmichael, who makes the catch. John Turner, the tackler, but it's a first down Philadelphia. By the way, at the half, we'll have 2 of the best quarterbacks ever to play this game, Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw, and their thoughts on the first half. I know that Roger, before the game, thought that Minnesota was going to win.
He also threw the ball around while people were warming up. It looked like he maybe should have been in one of the uniforms.
And also at the half, Brent Musburger will be talking with Atlanta wide receiver Wallace Francis. Dallas and Atlanta tomorrow, of course. 1st and 10, Philadelphia. Play to Harris. The throw to Scott Fitzke. Can't hang on. John Turner was the Minnesota defender back there with it.
The ball was there. That time it looked like the breeze might have made it flutter a little bit. He fakes the inside. That time Minnesota was in an over defense. Good pass protection. The ball was sort of laid there, and it begins to flutter down toward the end. Fitzke just didn't get it put away, did he?
Turner's made a couple of good defensive plays. 7 out of 15, 79 yards now for Ron Jaworski. Rodney Parker and Billy Campfield come into the Philadelphia offensive scheme. It'll be 2nd and 10.
The Eagles haven't worked on Bobby Bryant at right corner yet.
He's out there alone now with Rodney Parker. Sort of faking blitz. Montgomery gets out with some blockers in front of him, and he'll have a first down. Knocked out of bounds by Tommy Hannon and Kurt Knopf. For the Philadelphia first down, just shy of midfield at the 47.
Good-looking offensive play, and the line really gets downfield on this. They'll set up. Ron is going outside on that slip screen right away. This was intended. Petey Perot gets a good block, number 62. Morris is in front, the center. Wilbert doesn't get a chance to use his block because he's at a full head of steam.
So the Eagles, starting at their own 15-yard line, have moved up to the 47 now. Leroy Harris, the lone setback. Minnesota up 14-0. Montgomery trying to come up with a one-hander. Can't hang it.
First time they tried to go to work on number 20, and I say that not in any way taking away from the ability of Bobby Bryant, who's been around from South Carolina for like 13 years. But playing the corner right now when you can't touch anybody is like sliding down a 6-foot razor blade. It is difficult indeed.
He's the only member of that secondary left from a couple of years ago that had Jeff Wright, Nate Wright, and Paul Krause.
They would bend a lot, but they didn't break very often, did they?
Keith Prepley just limped off the field for the Eagles. 2nd and 10 for Jaworski and the Eagles. Jaworski has Billy Campfield. Incomplete. He had it and dropped it.
Kurt Knopf, the safety man, just took it away. Campfield had it sewed up. And Knopf just hit him a shot.
And he's hurt. Billy Camfield, and let's look at him hit in action.
The young man from Kansas comes in on the passing situations. This time Fitzke tried to tie up the corner Bryant and open this up down the middle. Just a good play by the safety man. Both of those safety men will hit.
That player might have got a hand on that ball just before it got there. At any rate, it's still 14-0 Minnesota. Billy Camfield over on the sideline. He ran off the field under his own power. They're working on Keith Krepfle, too, on his left knee.
That's the one they had the arthroscope operation on 3.5 weeks ago.
3rd and 10 for the Eagles. There's Krepfle up walking around. Minnesota showing them blitz, and here they come. Jaworski firing, got him in open. This time it's Fitzke, and he's out of bounds for a first down by Bobby Bryant.
And Fitzke is limping on the leg that he had the fracture in early in the year. A good sideline, a deep sideline on number 20. Out of Penn State, got the soft hands. Some said he wasn't quick enough, but he is. He ran a 9.600 in high school.
That's quick enough.
Boy, Sutherland put on a lot of pressure. Good throw by Jaworski, and Bobby Bryant actually fell down, making the coverage.
Something gave way just before he went out of bounds, not as a result of a hit. That looks like it might be an Achilles tendon.
Did you think the surface was really firm? I thought it was scraped to the snow yesterday, but it was even more firm than artificial surfaces usually are.
And they're hard anyway. Here's Scott Fitzke coming out. Watch something give way just before he goes out of bounds.
Steps off with his left foot there. The right foot began to turn under him a little bit, didn't it? Or is it the left?
I think it's the left that gave way.
That's the one he spun on to get out of bounds with.
He got the Eagle first down at the 40. Fitzke being carried to the locker room. A reverse coming to Rodney Parker. And they've got some room for this one. Parker, another Eagle first down. Matt Blair made the tackle, but inside the 30 are the Eagles.
Rodney Parker is a young man from Tennessee State that the Eagles decided to put on waivers early in training camp, and Carl Peterson said, well, I think I'd just like to have you stay around and be available. He's made 5 big catches, including the big one against Dallas last week. This is the first time I've seen him run the reverse around, or the flanker around. And it looks like he can handle big league situations. This is a good ball carry here.
Philadelphia comes back with a first down at the Minnesota 28. They were down close once before. The Vikings blocked the field goal attempt. Jaworski gets to Montgomery. Stacked up at the line of scrimmage by Matt Blair and Doug Sutherland.
And Studwell, who is really strong at the middle linebacking spot. He used to be a defensive lineman and trimmed from 260 to 235 or 40. And Studwell, number 55, can really hurt you. Sutherland made a good play, too.
Jeff Seaman got hurt earlier in the year, and he just couldn't get his job back from Scott Studwell.
And the Eagles must get on the board in this last 2 minutes if they're going to have a chance.
It'll be 2nd and 9. And this time, that's what's coming. Jaworski picked it up. Willie Teal tackled Harold Carmichael. The Eagles down to just 2 wide receivers now, including Harold Carmichael.
And Harold's taking a standing 8 right now. He got drilled pretty hard. 6'8" Harold Carmichael had the streak broken against Dallas. He had 127 games in a row where he caught it. The quick slant. Teal really drilled him.
Really did. Just shy of a first down, so it'll be 3rd and 1.5 maybe. 2-minute warning. 14-0 Minnesota.
Carmichael did stay in the game.
3rd and about 1.5 yards for the Eagles. They take to Harris. They're looking in the direction of Carmichael, and they got him. Inside the 10, it'll be 1st and goal Eagles. Kurt Knopf hit Big Harrell, and Harrell's shaken again, it looks like.
A great call by the people upstairs. Sid Gilman sent it down. Carmichael is going to be down. A good catch. He's made 2 All-Pro catches today. Here's the fake. Montgomery, by the way, swings up. Bobby Bryant took him. The ball is just put up where nobody but somebody 6'8" or so could get to it.
Carmichael has been aching a little bit later after each catch.
After the Dallas game, he had an extremely sore back. Jaworski's throwing the ball a little bit truer now and with more ease. He's 11 of 21 for 125.
If something happens to Carmichael, the Eagles would be down to 1 wide receiver, Rodney Parker. There's Montgomery out of the backfield.
He's running the straight. Bryant had pretty good possession. Mandatory that Vermeil's Eagles get on the board. If for no other reason, to keep the fans from perhaps coming over the walls. They are getting very angry and restless.
They have taken Scott Fiske. You saw him carrying him to the X-ray room. Each of the NFL stadiums must have X-ray facilities. They're checking him right now. Here comes Carmichael out.
A play or two, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Harold Carmichael back in there. He's a tremendous target in the end zone.
The Eagles will have it 1st and goal from the 9. They have 2 timeouts left. They trail 14-0.
And there's 1:40 on the clock. Viking defense has really been stubborn and reflecting their coach. Basic but tough.
Montgomery, Leroy Harris, the 2 setbacks. Over in a hurry. Scott Studwell, number 55, was the first one there.
The Eagles thought they could run outside left a little bit, outside right sometimes, but they have been closed off on this. Watch number 55. Morris goes through trying to get part of him. Studwell is already on the way, and now it's a parallel race. Montgomery tries to take advantage of Perot's block, and there's Studwell.
And Carmichael has re-entered the Eagle lineup. 2nd and goal from the 9. Looking for Carmichael and got him. Great throw from Jaworski. And a fine catch by Carmichael.
What a catch on a cold day. Carmichael that time barely had a chance to get his hands up. And when Jaworski wants to go ahead and throw cork, he can really throw it. Off speed, he loses a little touch, but this is a quick drop. Wham! Look at this catch. That's difficult.
Carmichael now has caught 5 passes, including that one for a touchdown. Tony Franklin, with Jaworski holding, will try to add the extra point. And he does. Minnesota lead is cut from 14-0 to 14-7. Watch that catch again.
I just looked next door, and Sid Gilman had the first grin on his face of the day. The ball is really thrown. It's hot. It's also brought the fans up off their seats. How do you defend against that? Get a step ladder, huh?
He stretches out. It's about 9.5 feet.
You try to chuck him, he's 225 pounds, too. I like it because he came back after being knocked woozy twice.
Big Harrell also headed for the Pro Bowl again, and deservedly so. 4 passes on that drive. Kickoff. Eddie Payton will be back deep for Minnesota.
Carmichael sees so much double coverage that to get a solo bit probably made him smile at the line of scrimmage.
Minnesota ahead 14-7 with 54 seconds left in the first half. Short kick. Payton takes it at the 16. And Eddie Payton still on his feet out to about the 38-yard line. Bernard Wilson tackled him, but a good return by Eddie Payton. 46 seconds left to play in the first half, and the score 14-7 Minnesota over Philadelphia. Injured Viking is Dennis Swilly, the offensive center.
Young man from Texas Aggie that we watched that's played guard most of his life, and they moved him to center, and even at about 245 pounds has been one of the real good young centers around. He looks hurt.
Jim Wanger, the veteran from the Miami Dolphins, is his backup. Swilly being helped off. Jim Wanger will take his place on the offense for Minnesota. 23-yard kickoff return by Eddie Payton.
The Eagles have kept Ahmad Rashad off the receiving book so far. 0 catches.
Here's Kramer. Looking and can't find anybody. Now gets Ted Brown finally. And Brown's got some room. Or had some. Jerry Robinson, who can run with anybody.
Robinson is the only consensus 3-time All-American, I guess, in recent history. Came out of UCLA, a #1 draft, and he can really play football.
Those are our halftime folks, of course. Minnesota takes a timeout with 24 seconds left in the first half, and they are leading Philadelphia 14-7.
Bradshaw looks like a cowboy, doesn't he? I mean, he looks like he should be on Appaloosa somewhere out in Idaho in the big snowdrift or something.
Well, he's got a ranch down in Louisiana, and I think he might have an Appaloosa.
That was the first #1 draft choice that Vermeil and Carl Peterson and Jimmy Murray and company ever had since they had taken over here. And he's got to be one of the great. He used to play nose guard in high school and then tight end on offense. But he can really play. He made the All-NFC first team, but did not play in the Pro Bowl. He was not elected to that.
Dennis Swilly on the far side of the field. The injured Viking on that last kickoff is headed for the locker room. Number 58. The veteran Jim Wanger is his backup. Wouldn't you like to have a backup like that?
Kramer's 11 of 15 for 126 yards and the touchdown pass.
It'll be 2nd and 10. Pressure, but throwing intended for White and almost intercepted by Randy Logan. Intended for Sammy White.
And I mean, the pressure came right up the middle out of the 4-man rush, and Kramer threw it almost through the defensive rush. Again, in a drop-back situation, Kramer might be able to be handled, but when he sprints out, he's a lot better. Watch this rush. They push it right back in his face. Ball should have been picked off.
Randy Logan was number 41 who had the chance. Doug Pascal was the lone Minnesota running back. Kramer looking deep for Rashad. Knocked away at the last second by Richard Blackmore, who came up with that big interception against Dallas 2 weeks ago.
Rashad is not on the books yet. He's caught 319 passes in 5 seasons. What a choice that was by the Vikes. They gave up Lertzema and a 4th-round draft to Seattle to get Ahmad Rashad.
Kramer. The Vikings snapped it too soon, I guess. I don't know what the problem was. And the referee just hit the kicker, Greg Coleman, in the face.
Only Jim Tunney could get away with that.
He was trying to make the signal. And watch Greg Coleman walk into this one.
That's right.
Do we penalize him?
Illegal procedure. Minnesota. Ball put in play before declared ready. Still fourth down.
There's been a big switch in the emotional factor in this game, and we saw that the Eagles can go in at halftime, as they did against Dallas, and come back out a different squad.
Greg Coleman back to kick. That's Jamona back for the Eagles. Coleman does well to get rid of it. Jamona headed straight up the field into a pack of Vikings. Outside the 40, about the 41, with 2 seconds left in the first half. 39-yard punt by Coleman.
The Vikings are just a little bit in that gray area right now, and the Eagles look like they're suddenly supercharged. But that touchdown by Carmichael from Jaworski was needed indeed if they're to get back in this game.
Minnesota with a 14-7 lead at the moment. A touchdown run of 1 yard by Brown. And a pass from Kramer to Sammy White. At the half, Staubach, Bradshaw, Brent Musburger, and Phyllis George.
Roger must have thermal on or some kind of a electrically heated suit. He's just in a sport coat, isn't he?
He said he had on a T-shirt. And that's all he's got underneath there, he said. The rush by Mulaney. Jaworski gets away from it, throwing to Carmichael. Can't come down with it. That then is the end of the first half. The score, Minnesota 14, Philadelphia Eagles 7.
I do feel like that you can see the coach right there talking to his players, that the Eagles are a tremendous second-half team, including Jaworski throwing the ball. By that time, most of the kinks are out of the game plan, and they know what will and will not go. But the Vikings have got to be pretty confident after that first half.
You see that the Eagles did have the ball at the bottom of the picture, 18 minutes, 15 seconds to 11:45 for Minnesota. But the Vikings put it into the end zone twice, and Philadelphia just once. Philadelphia 38 offensive plays to 26 for Minnesota.
Kramer was 11 of 17 for 125. Was tackled once, only 1 sack through the touchdown pass. And Jaworski was 12 of 22 for 134, and he was sacked 1 time. And he has a touchdown pass.
Kramer 11 of 17 for 125 yards. Billy Camfield, who was shaken up earlier in the first half and still managed to get off the field under his own power. There's Ron Jaworski.
This offensive series by the Eagles will tell you a lot about what is going to happen or maybe not happen. If they move it well, they've got something in mind.
Again, Rick Danmeyer will kick off aiming to his left. And Camfield waiting to start in that direction. Something that Fred Cox used to do. Field at the 10. And barrels outside the 30 to the 32. Larry Brune made the tackle for Minnesota.
Good field position. Let's see who comes in. Rodney Parker, number 83, is in. Scott Fiskey did break the bone in that foot, rebroke it.
So that means that the Eagles are down to just 2 wide receivers, Carmichael and Rodney Parker.
And let's see how healthy Wilbert Montgomery is.
Charles Smith, who would normally be the wide receiver, has a broken jaw, broken in 2 places. And it's questionable if the Eagles do advance that he'd be able to play. Montgomery was lined up as a flanker that time. Leroy Harris, the ball carrier.
The corners for the Vikings have played extremely well. The word around was that sometimes they play too deep and are soft. But I thought that Turner and Bobby Bryant both did extremely well, particularly against the run and when their receiver was in the act of catching the ball too.
It'll be 2nd and 6 for the Eagles as they send Parker and Carmichael out wide to the right. And Jaworski looks outside to Montgomery. That one didn't quite develop. Martin Mullaney came out of the backfield with Montgomery that time.
Good pressure by Duck White, the big #1 draft out of Oklahoma State a few years ago. Almost too much pressure, and a lot of people were following number 31 anyway.
So it'll be 3rd down for the Eagles and 7 at the 37. Opening minutes of quarter number 3 at Veterans Stadium. Vikings showing blitz. Now they back out a bit and do not. Jaworski has a man over Campfield. Penalty marker in the meantime is down. Blair knocked Campfield out of bounds.
Away from the throw, I think somebody knocked Keith Krepley in the back or held him. A good throw by Jaworski, who stayed in the pocket that was sort of swirling around him. A good rush that time, and they handled it.
Holding against Minnesota. The Eagles had a 1st down anyway.
Number 27 before the pass, declined. 1st down, Philadelphia.
John Turner is the one that made some contact and held on, the left cornerback. Watch the pattern now as the Vikings stun on defense, come to the outside. Here come the defense. It ends up the middle. Well handled by Sizemore and Walters and company.
The Eagles move the sticks up to the 48 where it's 1st down. Billy Camfield, who just made that catch. Krepley, the tight end, splits wide right this time. Carmichael out to the left. That's Montgomery underneath the Viking tacklers for about 5. Scott Studwell and Matt Blair made the stop.
Sizemore working against Mullaney that time. And Wilbert Montgomery doesn't need a large hole. I think he's more effective from the eye because he can go ahead and pick one that maybe shouldn't be there.
Gives him a little bit more time to find out what's developing. Harris breaks into the secondary of Minnesota. And he has another Eagle 1st down inside the Minnesota 35. Matt Blair again on the tackle.
Good job by Stan Walters, the mammoth left tackle. You're looking at the right side of the line. Walters just turns Martin, I believe it is, to the outside. Doug Martin. Somehow they took Sutherland down inside. It's an over defense. And Sutherland stunned it, and they cut off Duck White. That was a big hole. If that's Wilbert going through there, it might have been 40 yards.
Like somebody might have made a mistake and stunted in the wrong direction. Parker in motion. Jaworski looking for Carmichael, has him. Big Harrell down to about the 10-yard line before he's wrestled out of bounds. No markers down. Eagles 1st down.
Jaworski got belted after he threw it. Watch the move he makes. He throws it early, and this time he takes something off and gets it there. Mullaney drilled him. A 6'8" mammoth receiver with strength. You can see Hannon and Turner both having a problem getting the big fella out of bounds. His 6th catch, 75 yards and the touchdown. Here's the legal chuck in between the zone, the up man and the deep man.
First and goal, Philadelphia at the 8. Parker in motion. Eagles trying to tie the score. Jaworski looking, throwing. Pass almost picked off in the end zone by Minnesota. Intended for Carmichael. Jaworski again was hit down hard.
Keith Krepley, number 84, clear and open in the left end zone. And Jaworski read the one down the middle. To the left of the screen now, 84 will clear. Of course, Jaworski still looks there, and then he comes back. A lot of people in here. Harrell had a man on either side of him.
Kurt Knopf already almost came up with the interception.
Out of Kansas. Jayhawkers can play.
This time, Jaworski sends Trepley out wide left. Carmichael and Parker in the same formation on which they scored before. Handoff is to Montgomery. A touchdown goes to Montgomery.
He's limping a little bit. He can't be over 203 or 4 pounds. From Abilene Christian College, a 6th-round draft choice. Last year, 1,500 yards. This year, a little over 700, and he has really been hobbled. But watch the effort. Touchdown number 9 coming up. He's tough.
Excellent block by Woody Peoples. Helped that touchdown. Franklin ties the score at 14 in Philadelphia.
Used to block for him down at Abilene Christian. There's one thing about Wilbert, the shortest route to the end zone, even when it's tough.
And this playoff game is tied at 14 apiece between Minnesota and Philadelphia. The Eagles scoring drive. 8 plays, 56 yards. Montgomery scored a touchdown that ties the score with an 8-yard run. That's Scott Studwell, I believe, with the kickoff.
And that's 2 short kickoffs in a row by Tony Franklin.
That one almost didn't get airborne. There's Tony. A bit upset with himself.
Again, Kramer is a tremendously agile quarterback. On the sprint out, on the roll out, when it looks like he's going down, he can really effectively pump and throw the football.
Viking first down at their own 37. Score tied, 14 all. Doug Pascal is one of the running backs, and now he's the only running back. As Kramer is going to go right to the air. Screen pass set up to the tight end Sensor. Outside the 40. Fumble. The Eagles think they ought to have it, obviously.
The play looked like it was going to break for about 20 yards, and all of a sudden Robinson and company closed it down. Boyd, the big rookie's in there for the Vikings. The 34 is chasing him. Kramer throws it back. This is the 2nd year or 1st year tight end at 6'4". That's LeMaster from behind. Looks like he came out with the ball.
Looked like he took it away from him on the way down. Whatever we think we saw, it's still Minnesota ball, 2nd and 7. There goes Bob Tucker in motion. Kramer again will throw if he has time, and fires a little too hard. Intended for Doug Pascal, who fell down while the ball was on the way there.
John Bunning, number 95, filled or blitzed from the left side of that 34 and got a little bit of Kramer as he was making the throw and forced him to throw it hot. He calls the defensive plays for Marion Campbell. And every time the Eagles win another game, he cries a lot. He's one of those guys, but is he tough?
Eagles put in their pass rushing crew. That includes Kent Clark, number 71 in the middle, and Claude Humphrey, 87 on the outside. Has his tight end Sensor again, but the Eagles, Jerry Robinson understands what's about to happen.
Jerry Robinson left so early after he dropped back that Kramer is lucky it wasn't an interception. He is so quick, but more than that, he's really a good, solid football player. He's one of the best tacklers I think I've ever seen.
The Eagles fired up, and so is this crowd. Shimona back deep for the Eagles. Greg Coleman is the punter for Minnesota. Not a very good kick. Jamona coming over to try to field it. It bounces out of bounds at about the 37-yard line where the Eagles will take over. 33-yard kick by Coleman.
And there were at least 33 altercations between players on both teams. It's getting hot.
Right now, the Eagles are a little bit hotter than the Vikings. Those look like warm outfits, don't they?
Boy, should be able to run pretty fast in that get-up.
14 all in Philadelphia. Montgomery on first down. Wrestled down by Fred McNeil.
Remember, Wilbert Montgomery had a hip pointer, a bad knee, a pulled groin, got knocked out last week, and it looked like he was almost running into trouble waiting for something to happen. He looks like he's a little bit reckless today, even though he's still a little bit gimpy.
2nd and 6. At the 41-yard line. The score tied at 14 apiece. Again, Perot moved a little early. And he'll take it back 5. While we have a chance, we want to send our best to the Minnesota equipment manager, Stubby Eason, who's been under the weather for quite some time, but we are very glad to hear that you're feeling better.
Ball start. Number 62, still 2nd down.
Just came back up off the hand, 2nd-year offensive guard, and going to be really a good one.
That's incorrect. It's 2nd and 11 for Philadelphia. Jaworski is straight ahead to Montgomery, or straight under, maybe more correctly. And Montgomery gets to the 40. Matt Blair, the tackler.
Now it's nickel time, and nobody's better at nickel defenses, I guess, than Jimmy Carr, who's back with Bud Grant. He will bring in 6 defensive backs and blitz half of them, but he's really a master at showing you something that you haven't seen before.
So it'll be 3rd and 7. Minnesota blitzers firing away, and it's almost picked off by Bryant. Intended for Rodney Parker. No, Keith Krepley, 84. Beg your pardon.
Kurt Knopf came from the outside, the safety man. They do not switch, by the way, on the tight end. They play their side of the field, and if the end shows up there, they play him. If not, they play free.
There's Kurt.
Here he comes up on the outside, gets a good jump. Made Jaworski throw it badly.
Guy Morris coming out to try to pick him up. Here's Runniger. This one not one of his best as Eddie Payton comes up and out gets away from it. The Eagles down in a hurry, surrounded. So Minnesota will take over. Unable to move in the 2nd half the first time they had the ball. 27-yard kick is all by Runnigers.
In playoff competition at this stage, you begin to look for the turnover. Remember, the Vikings haven't fumbled and lost the ball but 3 times all year.
9:13 left in the 3rd quarter. The score tied at 14 all. 28 degrees, a wind chill factor in Philadelphia of 10 degrees. And that's right.
Whatever,
no shirt.
Whatever he's got inside would light a lamp for about a month.
1st and 10 for Minnesota. As Bob Tucker comes in motion, they throw in the direction of Sammy White. Again, it was a good throw, but White couldn't hang on. Herman Edwards was the Eagle defender.
Trying to get him to take the bite, or the bait, as they say. And if a cornerback does, and they run it up. And Sammy White is a smooth runner. The head doesn't bob, and he can really stride.
The Eagles shuffle their defense around again. Clark is in. So is Humphrey. They figure now that Minnesota's going to throw on just about every down.
Bigfoot Harrison's in there, too, at left tackle.
You're wrong. Doug Pascal, the rookie. About 6 yards before Humphrey takes him down.
Remember when Osborne and Billy Brown and that bunch, they lived by the rush, the 5-yard rush at you all day long, and Bud Grant, even though he looks like he doesn't change, has decided the game of the 80s is going to be throwing it, and we're going to do it as well as anybody. Boy, they do load it up.
He said going into training camp, he said this yesterday, that going into training camp, because of the rule changes, he figured that was going to be the easiest way to get it done.
Blocking on offense and not being able to touch them on defense, huh?
Simpson goes in motion. Kramer drops. He's got some time and some room. He throws. Sammy White comes down with it. And Minnesota moves into Eagle territory at the 37-yard line before Bernard Wilson makes the tackle on White.
What a catch by Sammy White. The good hands on a cold day. Offensive blocking has been excellent. Here he runs toward the line of scrimmage. Look at this catch at the height of the jump. Second catch for Sammy White. One was a touchdown.
Minnesota 1st and 10 at the Eagle 38. Score tied 14-14. Rashad, who still hasn't caught a pass, comes wide left. White's up to the top of the picture. Intended for White again. And picked off by the Philadelphia Eagles, Roynell Young. First down, Philadelphia at their own 6.
Good pass rush by Claude Humphrey, number 87. That time Kramer just skipped a little bit before he threw it. Here's Sammy White going up to start to go in, runs a 9, a fly. Roynell looked back for the ball, got it under control. Some slight contact, but no flag.
That's the first turnover of this contest, and the Eagles have it. 1st and 10 at their own 7. Long way to go. 7:28 left, third quarter. Montgomery is knocked down. His own blocker is knocked into him. Scott Studwell.
Watch the charge of the defensive line. The Vikings are in sort of an over defense in the seam. Petey Perot just knocked down, and Studwell made the tackle and also wrapped the blocker.
There's Scott. What a year he's had. He led the Vikings in tackles, and I can see why.
They say you can block him, but he's so strong he can take the block and then throw you off.
4-yard loss for Montgomery. 2nd and 14, back at the 4. Jaworski looking high to Carmichael. John Turner right there with him.
Well, Turner got away with chucking Carmichael beyond the 5-yard rule.
Jaworski quickly went out and complained to the officials about it.
Pretty good call. Jaworski again getting some time now. You can see Peoples battling. Here's the throw. A little bit of contact between the young cornerback and Carmichael.
Leroy Harris comes out. Billy Camfield into the Eagle offense. Jaworski will have to throw if he chooses to out of his own end zone. 3rd and 14. Jaworski finally gets rid of it. Safety.
Intentional grounding out of the end zone. What a blitz the Vikings came with. And there was no receiver there.
Nobody anywhere near. And Minnesota goes ahead 16-14.
This is where they force you to make the mistake. They're stunning. They're coming with the blitz. Blair that gets close, and Doug Martin.
And Doug Sutherland. Here comes Blair, 59, and Doug Martin, 79. They combine to take him down and pause to say front by 2 this time. Gruniger about to punt it. And Eddie Payton back at his own 25.
It's a free kick, huh?
Right. Payton fields it at the 36. Eddie gets back just shy of midfield. Minnesota gets the football back.
I'm wondering about the last offensive play, the pass play by Jaworski, why they didn't have some short receiver that he could dump the ball to. The pressure was obviously coming. Blair runs right over Wilbert Montgomery, and everybody's sort of running deep 15 and 18-yard routes. There's nobody to give the ball to.
Give Blair half a sack, and Doug Martin half. It's cold here, but it's not that cold. Doug Pascal and Ricky Young line up behind Tommy Kramer. Vikings take over in good shape, leading now by 2. 6:23 left. Here's a double reverse to Sammy White. That's going nowhere. John Bunting, not fooled at all.
A very slow developing play. I think anticipating the Eagles might overrush things, and they read and react so quickly they might run beyond it. Sensor gives off, and really there was nowhere to go from the very start. The man from North Carolina, Bunting, makes the tackle.
It'll be a loss of 6 yards, call it, 2nd and 16. Right end to the left. Ahmad Rashad still without a catch, split wide to the right.
And the 4-man rushes in.
Here comes LeCount in motion. Passes to LeCount. Can't hang on. A little bit behind him, Herman Edwards. Big Vermeil over amongst his Eagles.
I still think he has a loaded revolver in the dressing room at halftime that he waves frantically about, because when they come back out in the second half of many games, they are playing hard-pressed.
And they're being pressed at the moment by the Minnesota Vikings. Attendance today, 68,434. A cold, but not as cold a day as the predictions had led us to believe they might be. Here's Kramer dropping and sacked. Carl Hairston around the corner to knock down the quarterback, Tommy Kramer.
Sack number 9, and the offensive line of the Vikings has been protecting Kramer because they've been quick dropbacks for the most part. But this time Riley can't keep number 78 out. Came around the outside. He didn't take the inside.
Well, what a good year he's had. After the Vikings had an excellent opportunity, the Eagle defense rose to the occasion. Greg Coleman back to kick for Minnesota. Jim Owner back deep for Philadelphia. Good snap. Owner with some room to operate. Starts from the 24. Vikings down in a hurry. Brune again made the tackle. Here's the sack by Hairston again.
The second sack. Harrison gets this one. I think Claude Humphrey got the other one. And Kramer is 2 of 6 in the second half.
4:51 left to play in the third quarter in Philadelphia. And the Vikings, after the safety, lead the Eagles 16-14. 10 Eagles. They send Parker in motion. And Jaworski's going to throw. Does outside to Leroy Harris, hit by Bobby Bryant after a couple of yards.
Like Jaworski had second thoughts about even throwing that ball. He had to wait, sort of rejack it, and then load it up again. That's one of the few times I've seen a safety not result in more points by the team that gets the free kick. Credit to the Eagle defense. Quite a series.
Clock still running, 4:19 third quarter. And Minnesota, a record of 9-7, the NFC Central Division champions, leading the Eagles, champions of the East, by 2. Morris, who can't quite hang on. It's hit by Keith Nord. There's the Eagle coaching contingent upstairs.
That's Bruni to the left. Jerry Wampler's in the middle with the gray hair. Dick Corey, who, by the way, is in line for the New Orleans Saints job, we understand. A great assistant here. And Sid Gilman is over to the right, behind the post with that pom-pom on top of his knitted cap there. His knitted cap, I should say.
Third down and 8. The 35, Canfield and Montgomery, the two runners. If indeed it is a run, which I doubt. Jaworski firing for Parker. Willie Teal right back with him. Good defense.
Good defense, and Parker almost came up with the leaping grab. The young Viking secondary, I think, has played exceptionally well. He got one chuck in, looks back inside. Now Parker has the advantage. The defender wins a good one. Willie was hurt a lot earlier in the year, too.
So Max Runniger goes back. Eddie Payton back at the 25-yard line for Minnesota. Good kick this time by Runniger. Payton can't find the handle. Ball is loose. The Eagles come up with it. Reggie Wilkes makes the recovery for Philadelphia.
In playoff games, that bobble in the second half is the one that can send you home or send you on. Reggie Wilkes is an outstanding linebacker that simply has to come in on nickel defenses and special teams. That wind is swirling up there. Oh, what a scramble for the ball, and now the contact. And 51 went under and got it.
It was a 42-yard punt by Runniger. There's Reggie Wilkes, and here's what happened to Payton.
And again, that wind is uncertain, and it's never the same two kicks in a row. There's no way you can prepare for that ball.
Give an assist to Jamona, who was the first man down covering, and Wilkes, who made the recovery. Carmichael has it. Turner up to stop him on a pass to Jaworski. Play started at the 18.
Number 84 cleared into the end zone from a tight left formation. Krepley. Let's see how the blocking is. Good defensive play here. Let them have a few.
They got 6 to Carmichael.
That's his 7th catch. A big day after having some tough weeks with double coverage all the time.
Montgomery to about the 10. Larry Brune led the Minnesota tacklers.
How did Brune get there so quickly? He's got to be back in the safety spot in there for somebody.
There's a big eagle in the sky. Looks a little rumpled at the moment.
A little bit seedy.
3rd and short, about 2. Ball at the 10-yard line. Montgomery has it and more. It'll be 1st and goal, Eagles at about the 6. Montgomery is knocked backwards finally, but he got the first down.
He is just low enough at under 6 feet with the strong legs that he can get under much larger players. And he keeps his legs driving. He picks the hole out, not a bad hole, right off P.D. Perot, and simply will not stop. It's like a 4-wheel drive.
So it'll be 1st and goal at the 5 with a minute and a half left in the 3rd quarter. Minnesota leading 16-14. Carmichael in motion, gets back to Montgomery. Montgomery will score standing up. Leroy Harris with the key block.
And a good block down draft pick out of Northwest Louisiana. And they'll find you, folks. If you can play football, you'll make it because they cover it all. Carmichael goes in motion. 62 gets out. Leroy Harris gets out. Perot just actually keeps rolling and cut Matt Blair off.
Tony Franklin with Jaworski holding. As the Eagles try to add the extra point. They do.
Montgomery now 59 yards on 20 carries, 2 touchdowns. He is some little stud.
The NFL on CBS will continue after this word from your local station. From 5 yards out. Touchdown pass from Jaworski to Carmichael. The Eagles are back in front, 21-16.
Lynn Stiles told Franklin to kick the ball and kick it hard.
Goes only to 14. Eddie Payton comes out of the pack. And Payton is tackled by Tony Franklin.
Watch the bare foot. The short kick to what, about the 14?
Right.
Payton is so dangerous. No penetration by the coverage. He didn't get a chance to get down beyond that 30-yard line, and he broke right out of there.
Payton gets him back to the 47, where Tommy Kramer and group will come out throwing again. Here's Eddie. 1 minute, 6 seconds left in the third quarter. Philadelphia ahead 21-16. Doug Pascal is the lone running back for Minnesota. He gets the carry, spins to the right, gets to midfield. That's all. Charlie Johnson.
Charlie Johnson, the nose tackle or nose guard, has been handled pretty well by Swilly. This time he straightens up the center, moves over into it, gets away, and still gets help on it. The nose man cannot give ground, and yet he's got to maintain balance and control the offensive center.
Good to see Swilly back in the game, as a matter of fact. Remember, he injured an ankle in the first half on a kickoff return. He went early for examinations.
Everybody plays today.
So it'll be 2nd and 7 at the 50 for the Minnesota Vikings. Kramer drops. Pressure again. Fumble. And the Eagles have it again. What a play by Carl Harrison, who made the sack and the fumble recovery. Is he happy?
I'd say he is. He's the young man that was driving the truck. And Jackie Graves of the Eagles talked him into going to school at Maryland Eastern Shore. They signed him. He's like a 6th-round draft choice. And he is an incredible man moving. John Madden said he's one of the best defensive ends he's ever watched. Makes the sack and recovers the fumble.
How often have you seen that happen?
Turnovers, all 3 by the Vikings in the second half. The interception and 2 fumbles. Boy, he was in on there quick.
Jaworski brings this Eagles out quickly also. 1st and 10. 44-yard line of Minnesota. Here's Montgomery. Nothing doing. A fumble by Montgomery. And the Vikings get it right back. Kurt Knopf made the recovery.
And what a tackle. And that'll take the wind out of the offense right now, at least for a short time. Montgomery covers it up. Sutherland, the Thrasher, is the one that forced it. The Eagles have lost 17 balls that they have fumbled. Thrasher did a good job.
Now 9 seconds left in the third quarter. Minnesota quickly back on offense. Rashad and White split to the left. LeCount out to the right. Pascal alone running back. After Kramer again. Pass bounce off Pascal's hands and then off Bergey's hands. 2 penalty markers down.
Bergey is looking at his hands like they belong to someone else. Eagles are putting a lot of pass rushing heat now.
Kramer almost has no chance.
Double foul, offense, illegal motion declined, holding, 73, accepted. Still first down and 20.
Ron Yeri for holding. Yeri is playing with 2 broken bones. He had a broken bone on his fibula and then broke the foot of the other leg and still plays super sensational tackle.
First and 20, back at the 35 now for Minnesota. Same offensive formation. Pitches out to Pascal. Penalty markers down again.
Illegal crack back, you think, on the toss?
Either that or Rashad started too soon.
Illegal procedure.
Stadium is rocking now. Carl Halston is giving Steve Riley fits. 78 against the 78.
Illegal motion number 28, 5 yards penalty accepted. End of the quarter.
It's the end of the third quarter. The Eagles lead the Vikings 21-16 with 1 more to go. Where were you New Year's Eve?
I don't know. This fellow must have been with me. We should make it very clear that there is a 5-point margin, which is either 2 field goals or a touchdown. And you might recall that the Minnesota Vikings beat Cleveland on the last play of the game. Keep in mind, this is not over by a long shot.
15 minutes to go. 1 more quarter. And now Minnesota's operating from the shotgun, first and 25, back on their own 30. Kramer with time for change has Ahmad Rashad. And Rashad is near a first down. Randy Logan knocked him out of bounds. The first reception of the day for Ahmad Rashad.
Rashad is so smooth that he actually makes Rournell Young turn and go upfield, and then he just slides off. Sometimes he's on his own. Look at this, how much room he has. Logan is still up the field, and Young comes from behind, and they have trouble making the tackle with the sidelines helping him. Caught 69 balls during the regular season.
He's only had 1 day of practice in the last 2 weeks.
Remember when he was a running back with St. Louis, and a good one? Long time ago. 70?
Well, 2nd and 2 for Minnesota. Handoff is to Doug Pascal. He is hit hard. Bill Berge was the man who met him right at the line of scrimmage. How much more equipment do you need to come to a football game?
I bet he's got everything you would need. Watch Berge, weighing 240. The weak rest gave him a chance to get his knee swelling down, and that is a Berge tackle.
Minnesota, however, comes up with a clutch first down. Wonder how long he had to work on that.
Body painting.
First down, Vikings. Minnesota with Philadelphia leading 21-16. Here comes Berge out, along with John Bunting. Pascal again, the lone setback.
Pass rushes in.
And off pitch out to Pascal, and Pascal breaks a tackle, has another Minnesota first down. Fumble. Philadelphia has it back. Robinson made the tackle, and the Eagles get it. 4 turnovers now.
That's only the 5th fumble that the Vikes have made on offense all year long, the 17th game. A great play against the pass rush. The toss to the weak side. Reggie Wilkes is caught inside a little bit. Can't quite make the tackle. Pascal looks like he's going here, and Jerry Robinson forces the fumble, and Clark falls on it.
So the Eagles get a break. As Clark gives gives them that possession. 4 turnovers for Minnesota, 1 for Philadelphia.
Does Robinson make things happen playing defense?
He is excited. 1st and 10 at the 30. Handoff straight ahead to Leroy Harris, barreling for about 4. Matt Blair stopped it.
Just under 14 minutes left. It's almost inconceivable that you might be able to drive the length of the field. But if you do, you want to use up as much of the clock as possible. Still, 5 points is precarious.
It'll be 2nd and 6, and you could almost forget about the possibility of an overtime now with a score differential of 5 points. Tommy Kramer had an outstanding year. 2nd and 6. Jaworski gets to Montgomery. Montgomery will make it about 3rd and 3. Stopped by Doug Martin, a fine Minnesota defensive end. Montgomery getting up very slowly.
And helping other people up. There's the Philadelphia bench. Guy Morris, the offensive center, is really doing some job in there.
It will be 3rd and 3. There's Guy Morris, number 50.
Most of the Eagles in the offseason come in every day and hit the Nautilus and work out all the time. It's at least 12 months a year.
Here's Montgomery back in the game. Carmichael coming out. Montgomery will be the lone setback. Montgomery gets the carry. He has the first down, I think. He's very close to it. Matt Blair hit him first for Minnesota.
What a blast he is. I mean, there's some great fluid runners around, O.J. Anderson and all, but Wilbert is not fancy. But he always has both feet almost on the ground at high speed. Very tough, and he gets under a lot of people.
He's about the same size as Walter Payton. Bring out the sticks and measure. Got it.
60 yards now on 22 carries.
They have been tough yards, too.
He saved the best to last. The 2 touchdowns are important.
Scored once from 8, once from 5. First down, Eagles at the 41 now. The clock running at 12:18 left to play. Quick count, and again it's Montgomery. And again he is hit hard. Ball comes loose, but after he was down, Doug Sutherland out there quickly, and Montgomery really took a rap, and he's still down.
What a tackle. From the inside position on the right side, Sutherland gets all the way out. The quick toss. Jaworski didn't use the clock all the way down. Watch 69 come all the way with help from Studwell
again.
Perot tried to get outside position and couldn't.
11:56 left to play at Veterans Stadium, with the Eagles leading the Vikings 21-16. Montgomery over on the sideline just got there. Here's what happened again from ground level.
Might be the left knee. You're behind Wilbert Montgomery. Watch 69 now somehow get out in the flow past the tackle, defensive end Martin. Watch the left knee as he goes down and is driven into the pavement there.
Jamona's taken his place, and he's in there with Leroy Harris at the moment. I beg your pardon, that's Camfield who came up right behind Jaworski. Jaworski, as his arm is started forward, it'll be an incomplete pass. Again, it was Doug Sutherland who put on the pressure.
Somebody turned Big Doug on. He's from the northernmost city in the United States up in Wisconsin. It's the brandy capital of the entire world. It's so cold up there, but he is hot right now. Jaworski's arm was coming forward. You see Guy Morris calling out the blocking so that Jamona could move up in and take the linebacker?
Golden day in Philadelphia. Who gave you that stat about that being the brandy capital of the world?
I was up there doing a ski show one time, and I found out.
Third. 10 at the 41. Jaworski. Long count this time. Just got it off. This time he has time. Mulaney. And the pass is picked off by Minnesota. They have it at midfield. Interception by John Turner, who's had a heck of a day.
The the under coverage. Turner picked it off. Again, Wilbert Montgomery leaving takes away the running game. Only the 13th interception for Jaworski this year. He's been very careful. He does not read the under back.
Intended for Carmichael, but Turner well in front. John led the Vikings in interceptions this year with 6, and Minnesota will take over. 1st and 10 at midfield. We have 11:24 left to play in this divisional playoff game. 21-16 lead. 11:24 left to play. The Eagles leading Minnesota 21-16.
5 points.
Ricky Young and Doug Pasco for the Vikes. Kramer with lots of time this time, intended for Rashad, picked off by Herman Edwards. And Rashad is claiming he was interfered with.
Oh, Herm Edwards got away with the theft of the year. Bring on the Brinks people. Watch this. He moves inside, brushes Rashad on the deep curl in, makes contact, goes by and gets the ball and comes out with it. Just get the car running and run for it. Rashad running that deep curl in. The ball is thrown right on the money, and Edwards gambled, took the inside, and came out with the ball. And he probably has Rashad's watch, too.
Rashad looking for somebody to complain to, and Herman Edwards nevertheless gives the Eagles the football. Parker in motion. Montgomery back. Wilbert Montgomery breaks out of the pack and gives Philadelphia a 1st down in Minnesota territory. We got the information that he had a slight concussion and he might be back.
Wilbert's had a concussion for 2 weeks, but he's got the legs healthy today. Let's see how the blocking opens up. Sutherland to the outside. Perot handles him. Harris comes through. Good block. I believe it was Woody Peoples that drove the other tackle out of the way.
Guy Morris dominated the man he was blocking. Steve Kenny, by the way, is the offensive tackle for the Eagles. Jerry Sizemore has an injured toe. 1st down for Philadelphia. Jaworski going for more. Almost picked off by Matt Blair. Looked like it was intended for Blair.
Blair looked like he was running the slant in. They're 10:24. That's what's on the clock. Blair's got that great height out of Iowa State. Been a Pro Bowler the last couple of years. He claims if he played in New York, he might have been in the Pro Bowl for 7 straight years.
Look at this.
Look at this, and almost came up with it.
It was intended, I think, for Keith Trepley, the tight end. Quarterbacks today, Kramer 15 of 26 for 163. Jaworski 16 of 35 for 180.
A 3-man rush now by the Vikings. At least 3.
2nd and 10. The handoff is to Harris, and he's thrown backward by Dave Roller.
Used to be with the Packers. Was he with the Giants once?
Yes.
Found a home in Bloomington.
College at Kentucky.
They start with a 3, bring another linebacker, which makes it the 4. But this is a good play. Morris just could not get the angle on Roller.
There's Dave. Somewhat of a prankster, they say.
Yes. Full of life.
On 3rd down, 13 at the 49. Jaworski. Let's see if he gambles. Hanfield and Montgomery, the 2 running backs. Long count. Vikings pressuring Jaworski. He gets away from a couple. Goes deep. It's picked off by Minnesota. Intended for Rodney Parker, and Tommy Hannon came up with it.
Hannon came from nowhere to make the interception. Parker was open and doing the side straddle, trying to get attention. Movement by Jaworski, excellent in the pocket. Gets away from Roller after Sutherland. The throw is not that good. Look at this move. From Michigan State. Hannon can play with anybody. He's got the good reputation and deserves it.
The Vikes with a long way to go now with 9:27 left on the game clock. They'll have it 1st and 10 at their own 15. Trailing by 5 points, 21-16. 1st and 10 Minnesota at the 15. 9:27 left to play. Kramer will go on 1st down, try to get it off Tucker. It's picked off by Frank LeMaster. LeMaster running to the 15 where the Eagles will have it. Turnover after turnover.
That's only the 2nd interception for number 55. The big guy out of Kentucky, and he's big at 238. The ball came off Tucker's hands. He's trying to sneak under. He does a delay and then comes under. I think the official might have gotten in the way of Tucker a little bit. Looked like Tucker was looking at somebody that turned out to be a fella in a zebra shirt.
And LeMaster comes up with the interception. The Eagles take over 1st and 10 at the 15. There's Big Frank.
He should be smiling. Let's see if the official did get in the way of Tucker, who was delayed coming back across. No, I don't believe he did. It was just missed.
Montgomery slips down on the artificial turf, and the Vikings are there quickly. Loss of about 3. Minnesota with 6 turnovers now.
And they've been so careful coming down the stretch.
They had only lost 3 fumbles until today.
And only 6 interceptions the last 8 games of the season. They've cut that down. Wilbert Montgomery is limping again. All the strain went on that left leg when he got back up.
And here he comes out, and Jamona comes in.
What a player.
31 hobbles off. Tomorrow, it's Atlanta-Dallas in Atlanta. Jaworski gives to Jamona, and he gets nowhere, and is banged backwards. The Vikings were saying that they had recovered the football, but everything had come to a halt.
One of the amazing stats through the whole year is that with Montgomery missed almost 7 games total, and somehow with Jamona and Camfield, Vermeil, Dick Corey, and the entire group changed the offense enough to still win games during that period. Now Jamona's going to have to carry a big load. It gets tough down here for a 176-pounder.
Got to throw it down, or perhaps play it safe and put the field goal on the board. To just about put it out of range. For Kepler. Incomplete with Willie Teal on the coverage over there with him. And Tony Franklin will come on.
Correctly made the adjustment on the ball. It was just too far to the sidelines. The blitz came pretty well handled, but outside I believe it was Knopf that was coming from the safety spot.
Franklin, who's had his problems of late. And of course, you have to be very much aware of that Minnesota kick-blocking rush. They really work at it. Now they're going to let him think about it a little bit. As Bud Grant indicated, he wanted to call a timeout and give Tony a little bit more time, perhaps, to worry. And I don't think it's perhaps.
Against Dallas, he missed from 43, 27, made a 29-yarder, missed a 25-yarder, and made a 19-yarder.
He has tried one before today, early. That one was knocked down by either Blair or Sensor. We still don't know. Minnesota, again, really works at this. The guys on the line, on the front line, they call the grubbers. And the guys who try to do the blocking, they call the leapers.
Every kicker goes through the time when the stroke is not perfect. He claims in Tampa on the Buccaneers practice field he found it.
He's wrapped up that bare foot with a towel. I wonder if that's why Bud Grant called that timeout, to let his foot get cold. Is that legal, you think?
I think so.
Devious.
Made a pretty good tackle on a kickoff return. He's ready to go.
3 yards out.
He's 7 of 11 from this distance the year.
Jaworski the holder. Kick is good.
You don't think this Aggie's happy, do you, Tony Franklin?
The Eagle lead is now 8 points, 24-16.
Chuck Badneri just went over and said, good going. That's a lot.
Good snap, good hold. And Franklin got...
How many interceptions for...
Tony Franklin set to kick off with the Eagles now leading 24-16. 7:31 left to play. Lead is now 8. That's a big difference. Eddie Payton comes out of the end zone to the 15 to try the return, goes into the pack and out to the 30. Minnesota will take over there. A scoring drive, if indeed you can call it that, went nowhere. The interception got back to the 15. They gained no yards and then kicked that field goal by Franklin.
Kramer has 3 interceptions now. He's 15 of 27, 3 INTs, and he's got to throw it now on every play.
Sammy White out wide to the right, Rashad to the left. Ricky Young, one of the running backs, the other was Pascal. Kramer has time, throws intended for Tucker. John Bunting right there with him.
Just remember, this young man threw it to Ahmad Rashad in the closing seconds. About 8 people there, and Rashad came out with the ball, and Cleveland couldn't believe it. They took Houston to in the last game that meant nothing to the Vikings, right to the wall before Earl Campbell beat them late. This team will hang tough.
So will its coach. 2nd and 10 at the 30. Kramer back again. Pass protection was adequate, almost intercepted, intended for White. Roydell Young with a diving effort. And it'll be 3rd and 10.
The dangerous combination, Sammy White in the slot, Rashad outside, and that time Rashad cleared up and cleared rather easily. Good throwing motion by this young quarterback. Imagine being a head coach at 29. That's when Bud Grant took over at Winnipeg. At 29, I could barely start my car.
I mentioned before that only George Halas has more pro victories than Bud Grant. Kramer with good protection. Throw is picked off by Herman Edwards. Edwards goes out of bounds. Ahmad Rashad, the intended receiver, but Philadelphia has the ball at the Minnesota 31.
A free agent from San Diego State gets his 2nd interception. Herm was at California when Bartkowski and Ferragamo were there. He decided, well, I think I'll go to San Diego and play. A free agent that has done such a job with the Eagles. He doesn't have outstanding speed. He knows how to play people and their personalities, and he is super at it.
Carl Hairston was shaken up on the play. Kramer has his 4th interception in the hands of Herman Edwards. Bud Grant still looking on. Jaworski comes out in good field position again. Eagles take over with 7 minutes and 2 seconds left to play.
Wilbert Montgomery comes out.
Minnesota bench at the moment a little bit discouraged, confused perhaps.
But they came from 3 and 5. Must be a former player that I played with.
Still in the game, looks like.
Got his helmet on. Well, we found that Jaworski is tough late against Dallas. They picked up the blitzes, and he was able to get back in that football game. He is a very tough, rugged quarterback.
Harrison able to make it back to the bench without assistance. And Jaworski has Leroy Harris as the only running back. two tight ends lined up on the right flank. Harris struggled straight ahead for about 4. Doug Sutherland led the defense. Tommy Kramer.
With the new rules, he might be the most important quarterback around. Of course, there's Fouts.
And there is Jaworski, who had that outstanding year. And Dick Vermeil said yesterday at the press conference that Jaworski is going to get nothing but better. Six interceptions in this game. Second down. The give is to Jamona. Down to about the 26. He's knocked backwards from there.
Is he incredible? Jamona, you know, is waiting off from Utah State. He is, that's right, the nephew of the coach and all that. And he had the nerve to wear a New York Yankee baseball jacket around heading for Tampa the other day. And some of the Phillies saw him and were going to take it off. Rose and Boa and that bunch. Got to be tough to do that.
And also that.
Rorschach, they would put the test back 30 years.
Jaworski out to Jamona with some room. He'll have a first down for Philadelphia. That's Campfield. I'm sorry.
You know how many players you use to get in this position? Just like the Vikings, you use all 45 plus all the people that are on the injured list and standbys and that started out with you. You can't do it with just 22 people anymore. Everybody gets into it.
Dave Roller chased Campfield down. Jaworski strolls back into the huddle. Clock says less than 5 minutes left to play. (24-16) Philadelphia. Looks like they're going to make it to the finals. Jamona straight ahead again on first down. Dallas visits Atlanta tomorrow. If Dallas wins, the championship game will be here. If Atlanta wins, it'll be in Atlanta.
There's some great coaching staffs around the league, but I've said it before on the air that Vermeil's football team, when it takes the field, is the best prepared darn football team that I've ever seen. If they don't play well, there's usually a reason. But he gives them all the information they need to do it. And they don't have a bunch of superstars or #1 draft choices. They're a bunch of working guys.
2nd and 6 at the 11. Jaworski taking all the time he can. Now he hands off to Jamona, who's wrapped up by Matt Blair. Just shy of the 10-yard line. It'll be third down. An 8-point Eagle lead.
Bud Grant never changes, does he?
Never.
He ran me out of the dressing room one time and almost threw his quarterback, Joe Kapp, out at the same time because we were laughing before a game, and then he stayed around and did a 10-minute fill with me in the cold to show you what kind of a square guy he is. I was wrong, and I knew it, but he is a solid citizen, isn't he? I'm talking about Mr. Grant.
He was terrific yesterday. Fielding questions. Not evading any of them. Necessarily telling you what you want to hear. Leroy Harris barrels shy of a first down to about the 12, perhaps. Vermeil wants to go.
Leroy Harris is hurt. Carrying the load, rushing the ball, tries to sort of do a veer to the outside. The Vikings are gang tackling like it's the first quarter. And a foot, you gamble and go for it.
That's what they're going to do.
Vermeil makes the decision.
Some confusion and discussion. Matt Blair is really upset. The clock is still running. I think that's what Blair was really upset about.
Philadelphia, #1.
Timeout. The the Eagles, they have 2 left.
If nobody had called timeout, Blair is absolutely correct. They'll have to come back and put the time back on the clock. Blair's still talking and pleading his case.
Stadium clock here shows 2 minutes and 18 seconds left to play. And the Eagles up by 8 points. Decided no field goal. They're going to go for it.
The Vikings never really established that rushing game. And when you really do have to tee it up and throw, even a great quarterback like Kramer on almost every play, against a defense like this, it gives up an average of like 13 points a game. You're in trouble.
4th and inches, but quite a few. Jamona will have it over the left side. Billy Camfield. There's Jamona. Billy Camfield might be shaken up again. Leroy Harris was hurt before, but he's going to stay in. 2-minute warning. And the Eagles will either be here next week or in Atlanta.
Leroy Harris is a study. When he came to the Eagles, he wasn't sure he wanted to pay the price that Vermeil always asked. And he said, finally, I think I am an Eagle.
24-16, Philadelphia. Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. The Eagle fans delighted. Philadelphia's finest. Penalty marker down, and so is Jaworski. Henry Johnson, the man who hit Jaworski.
Looked like it was somebody trying to clear into the end zone, got hay hooked. Jaworski didn't want to throw that ball without having a wide open receiver.
It's Minnesota. Vikings at one time had a 14-0 lead. And it was 14-14, and then they got the safety and made it 16-14, and then the Eagles. Capitalizing on turnover after turnover. Gone ahead.
Encroachment, defense, half the distance of the goal line, still first down.
The Vikings had established the rushing game 36 yards. And most of that was in that first half. I think that first touchdown by Philadelphia just before halftime was important indeed.
The Vikings, of course, lost their leading rusher, Brown. He tried to come back and could not.
Dallas, Atlanta tomorrow.
Correct.
Dallas wins, they perhaps come back to Philadelphia.
No, perhaps. Dallas wins, they come in. Touchdown to Perry Harrington, who barrels into the end zone. And the Eagles will move on to the NFC's championship and try to go to the Super Bowl.
Harrington, he's got a 4.45 40 speed. He's a rookie. How much does the home field advantage mean? Is it worth at least a touchdown? I think it's worth at least 7 points now in the playoffs.
Montgomery had an interesting comment yesterday after being down in Tampa. And then coming back to the cold, he said there is no home team. They have just as much of an advantage as we do. Tony Franklin drills it. And the Eagles go to 31-16. Sad sideline on the opposite side of the field. And a happy one close to us. Dick Vermeil and his Eagles will be in the NFC Championship game. Look at Scott Studwell.
They can't play any better than they played.
Especially no better than he played.
They got $5,000. That's the payoff for winning this game, but I have a feeling that nobody was thinking about their checkbook. He won 10 games 2 years ago, then 11. 12 games this year, and he drives himself as hard as he drives that entire staff.
Don't forget to stick around with us for the post-game festivities as far as the Eagles are concerned. Tony Franklin will kick off. 1:51 left to play. Vikings have 2 timeouts. Remaining, Eddie Payton back deep for Minnesota. It's 31-16. Payton drops the football, and the Eagles are all over him. Rodney Parker was the first man down.
We understand that Mr. Leonard Toes and his new bride Caroline had Mr. Frank Sinatra as a guest today, and we hope he enjoyed what is sort of a rousing time in Philadelphia. He's been here a lot before, but here today he wasn't entertaining, he was being entertained.
Minnesota football at the 15-yard line. Bud Grant.
Just the same, huh? When he was up 14-0 as he is now.
Nothing but class. Kramer throws to running back Ricky Young. Out of the backfield, Frank LeMaster made the tackle. It'll be a celebration time in Philadelphia tonight.
Bartkowski and those receivers, plus Kane and Mr. Andrews, that should be some contest tomorrow. Dallas, Atlanta.
Penalty marker down before the play got underway, and Kramer stops. One of the Eagles jumped offside. And deservedly so. He was pulled offside against Minnesota. No, against Philadelphia. Well, I'm wrong again. It's against Minnesota.
Carl Hairston's sacks had a lot to do with that.
Illegal procedure on the center moving the ball. Still second down.
Tunney has kept good control of this game, the officials. There are always going to be some that people do or do not like. The ball is a funny shape.
Like someone said yesterday, can you think of another sport where the ball's not round?
That's a mind-boggler. I got to think about that one.
Bob Brewer made the reception. Al Chesley made the tackle for Philadelphia. Kramer and the Vikings in a hurry. Down the middle to Pascal, the running back, who struggles to stay on his feet and does. And gets out to the 45. Bernard Wilson stopped him. Pass intended for Rashad, almost picked off again by Herman Edwards. The executive producer, Charles Milton, on the third. Good to see him back.
Yeah, nice to have him traveling with us, wasn't it? Robert Stenner.
And the director, Sandy Grossman. Richard Craig, thank you. John McDonough, thank you. And all the rest of you.
And we don't know where we'll be next week.
Not till tomorrow. Kramer down the middle to Ricky Young again. Another first down, Minnesota.
If Atlanta wins, the Eagles will travel to Georgia because they won the head-to-head matchup they had late in the year.
Minnesota calls a timeout here.
You know, he was the first special teams coach ever hired in this league. Dick Vermeil was hired by George Allen to be the special teams coach with the Rams. He was the first one.
Don't forget to stick around for festivities after the game.
Hey, we want Dallas. Hey, we want Dallas. Hey, we want Dallas. Hey, we want Dallas.
Don't forget, Brent, you got to go to Atlanta.
On the 5:45.
Stick around for the interviews afterward. Dick Vermeil a little bit happier than he was at the end of the first half. The Eagles 31-16 at the moment. Vikings down to one timeout. 1st and 10. at the Philadelphia 44.
You know what Bud Grant said yesterday? That of all the teams he's watched, the Eagles are more prepared to play at their best over the whole season as any team he saw the entire year.
Deep intended receiver, number 87, Kevin Miller. But no chance.
Those horses, by the way, we're not preparing for the Woodward Stakes or anything. Those are police horses. They bring them in just because if the fans do pour over and go over the barriers, somehow the horses seem to cool them down.
Somehow. 19 seconds left to play. There's that Eagle fine linebacker, Jerry Robinson. Happy folks around here. Scoreboard sign says, who's next? It's Kramer. Fires down the middle. Almost picked off, intended for Sammy White. It was Roynell Young that was down there.
From the Napa Valley. He doesn't drink the very expensive bubbly stuff. It's just Napa Valley red.
Well, you know, no matter who they play, whether it's Atlanta or Dallas, they're going to be prepared.
I bet the Eagles head back for Tampa on Tuesday.
I was just about to ask you if they were going to do that.
Go back down and use John McKay's facilities down there, which I understand are about as good as you can have.
They are excellent.
And nobody got in the pool either. He worked the heck out of them down there.
3rd and 10 at the 44. Kramer in the direction of White. Stops the clock with 6 seconds to go. There's the Eagles owner, Leonard Toews. Closest to you. Jim Murray, the general manager, on the other side of him.
Leonard's a new bridegroom. Just got married a week ago, 10 days ago. Looks happy and healthy both.
And I guess he must be wealthy.
He's got a few.
Can't beat that combination. Squadron right is picked off by the Eagles in the end zone. And there's no time on the scoreboard clock. Roynell Young intercepting Dick Vermeil. He carried off on the shoulder. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the final score is the Eagles 31, Vikings 16. Tom Brookshire, this is Pat Summerall saying so long from Veterans Stadium. Now let's go to Brent Musburger.
All right, Pat Summerall, thank you so much. And so for the second time this year, Dick Vermeil is carried off the field on the shoulders of his players after the Philadelphia Eagles down the Minnesota Vikings. The reason why the crowd, of course, is chanting so vociferously, "We want Dallas," is because it would be played here in Philadelphia. And Dick Vermeil is making his way toward the Eagle locker room here in Philadelphia, where this franchise, so many years down, has now reached the finals of the NFC. If Atlanta beats Dallas, of course, then the championship game will be down in Atlanta, and these fans would not have another home game. We're going to go inside that victorious Philadelphia Eagle locker room with Irv Cross as the NFL Today continues on CBS in just a moment.